Marcus John does finally. Ethan Warren gives him no space. Oh, he's sideways. He's very, very sideways. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the penultimate round of the Automobilista Supercars Championship. We are here for the last time out at Sydney Motorsport Park before we move on to the big one, the ASC Bathurst 1000. I am Michael Zalavari, also known as Floodman11, and joining me tonight I have Liam Madbird Harrison. Good evening, Liam.
Good evening, Michael. We are here for the last of the Sydney Motorsport Park Tetrarch. Is that four things? I think that's four things.
Quadrant.
Quadrangle?
It's technically a trident because we've only been here 3 times for the main game.
Because one of them was the Super 2 last week out. But regardless, we've had 4 races in a row here at Sydney Motorsport Park. And this is the last one, and I'm very excited to be here with yourself, Michael.
Yes, it has been a long time. It's been the first time that we've done commentary together since Bathurst last year, so it is great to see you, Madbird.
Yeah, so we get to get our eye in with, how we talk to each other before the main game in a few weeks' time.
Indeed. Of course, Stairs would love to be here, but he's currently away, so while the cat's away, the mice shall play, as they say, and we have currently broken into his house and is using his 3 computer, 5 monitor setup for this beautiful event, which is something that I'm very thrilled to be able to run an event on these on this beautiful setup. It's great. Thank you, Stairs.
Yeah, absolutely, and it definitely doesn't feel weird at all being here without the person that lives here. It definitely feels entirely normal being in someone else's house without them here. But regardless, you've mastered the use of the setup almost immediately. You're quickly shaking your head at me, but
mastered is a stretch.
You have grown comfortable with the setup.
Comfortable, I'll pay.
Yeah.
Also comfortable at the moment is the championship, but there's still a question mark over whether or not it can be decided tonight, Madbird.
Yeah, there is. So at the moment, Kurt Stenberg holds a commanding lead. There is an opportunity for Zach Baker if he can outscore Kurt Stenberg by 12 points. During tonight's race, then he will be able to keep the championship alive out to Bathurst. But if it's if he does not outscore Kurt Stenberg, then Kurt has wrapped up the title once again for the second time, I think, in ASC. And Benjamin Dahlia is also in with a shout, but in order for that to happen, Kurt Stenberg basically needs to DNF out of the race. I think Kurt needs to outscore Kurt by 233 points, which is a considerable amount of points.
Yes, indeed. It would be quite a calamity if that wasn't the case tonight. In the Teams Championship, it is currently the ZB Racing team in a commanding position with a lead of almost 700 points over Blackshaw's Racing. Race on Oz dropping down the order after the last Sydney event, despite Brody Steen picking up a race win, and they're in competition with Race on Oz too, which is a very tightly run thing.
Yeah, so the sister teams having to fight over that last podium spot for the Teams Championship. Trans Tasman Racing, Sydney Sim Sport Racing, and a few others rounding out the top 10 there.
And we'll just have that's not the button I wanted to press. This is the button I wanted to press. So much for being on top of the...
Mate, you're doing better than I would. Don't even worry about it. You know what triggers me? The fact that those 3 delayed broadcasts texts aren't lined up because November 23 has 2 numbers. But
awful kerning.
Awful. We will be back after tonight for the Bathurst 1000 on December 17th and 18th. Qualifying on the 17th with the race itself on the 18th. So time still to be decided, but those will be live streamed from our new location once it is, built. it'll be yourself, myself, and Stairs at this stage, with hopefully Bagsy also joining in.
Yes, unfortunately we won't be able to have Matty Dunlop with us once again because he's gone and got himself a real job that requires his a commitment.
What
on the
a nerd!
weekends. I know, right? But it will certainly be a extravaganza of supercars action. Of course, 2 weeks after the real Bathurst 1000. What we'll do quickly is we'll jump into the practice session. We'll just have a look here at Brendan Ross going around the track. We've become very familiar with the Sydney Motorsport Park facility over the course of this month, Madbird. What is the format for this evening's actions if you want to pass on that information for us?
Absolutely. So we have got a 5-minute qualifying session, which will be interesting to say the least. That will be coming up in about 10 minutes time. After that, we do have a top 10 shootout, which is expected to take about 25 minutes. And then we have just a single race for tonight. So a bit of a different format than usual, as we've tried to do with all of the Sydney Motorsport rounds, rather than doing 4 of the exact same event in a row. This one, we have just got the one race, which is a marathon 64 laps. So definitely, I think the longest race they've had this season in ASC, other than the Bathurst 1000, of course, which will be next up. So sort of a little mini event, just to sort of train our guys up in long, in not quite endurance racing, but longer racing than 2 sprints.
Yes, exactly. Colin Warwick said in the chat before the race that it was the last single drive around before we gear up for the enduros, and that is of course what's next on the menu. Driver changes, long stints. This is going to be probably the longest stint that a bunch of these guys have done all year, possibly.
Yeah, since Bathurst last year, if they competed in that. It's definitely a different kind of racing, and there's a lot more strategy involved. So we don't have any compulsory pit stops, but we do have 2 times fuel usage, which will necessitate at least 1 stop, but we reckon it might be marginal. They might need to make the 2.
Indeed, and this man on screen at the moment, Luke Rosella, has been the fast man in the practice session. He's currently got the top time, so 129.1. So he just runs and uses all the real estate on the exit of turn 3. Rosella, he was very strong here in Sydney 1. I don't think he was here for Sydney 2. Do you recall seeing his name pop up?
I can't off the top of my head. No, actually...
Oh, he got pole. He got
did.
pole last time.
I am an idiot, yes. He did get pole last time, but I don't think he did particularly well. I think he got 1 podium, but you sort of expect a bit more of him. There was a lot of shenanigans, unfortunately, that night, so I think he might have come a cropper of some of that. But he definitely is setting the pace so far tonight. He's 2.5 tenths up on the second place man, David Nenadich.
And a exciting run last time out at the Druitt circuit. Brody Steen getting his first win in ASC after 2 seasons of toil. We saw him get a podium in Sydney 1, but then to go ahead and back it up with a victory last time out, that was quite exciting. I think everyone liked that.
Yeah, I think it's the classic Fallout meme of just in the top left. Everyone liked that. I don't think anyone was particularly upset to see Brody Steen finally get himself on the top of the rostrum, because he's been sort of grinding away at that stone for quite a while. And as you say, to get his first podium the week before and then get his first win the following week, that's got to be, that's a high mountain to come down from.
And we hope he can back it up again tonight, because that would put him in very good stead heading into Bathurst. I assume he's going to be pairing up with Sean Allen again for the big one?
I would assume so. Sean did reappear last time out. Well, not last time out, sorry. In the Sydney 2 race. He did appear after a bit of a sabbatical. So hopefully he will be coming out again tonight. I can't see him in the server just yet, but we do have a bit of time left to run. And the results...
Oh, that was more of a question. I was trying to... Anyway, that's fine. Sean Allen, we hopefully will see. They've got to fight their teammates, their sister team, for the teams championship to get into 3rd place. But someone else who it's good to see back again is this one, Colin Warwick. After a bit of a sabbatical.
Yeah, had some health issues, I think, that it meant he wasn't able to come to last time out for the main game in Sydney 2, but is back again, which is very good to see. It's always nice to see both of our admins Kurt and Colin out there. And Colin's been on a bit of a charge in terms of form this season. He's been definitely up. He's upped his game since last season, so it's nice to see him back out there again. And currently sitting third in the timing sheet, so that's nothing to sneeze at.
No, not at all. And of course, this is the other admin in question, Kurt Stenberg. We made mention ahead of the show that he is the current championship. Oh, I pressed the wrong button there. The current championship champion-elect at the minute. Currently sitting with a 200 and a quite large lead. I can't quite do the maths immediately. It is 311 points is the gap, hence Zach Baker needing to outscore him by 12 to keep the championship alive. Hopefully we get a race underway tonight, because I'd hate to see this championship decided the same way as the real deal was just yesterday. Did you catch that one at all, Madbird?
I didn't. As I've said before, I'm not really a supercars man, so why don't you enlighten me and any of our viewers that happen not to have watched it themselves?
That's quite a bit of a bust up. It turns
a little bit of synchronized pirouetting there going into the hairpin.
Let's see if we can catch a replay of what happened there.
I reckon it was Steve Warwick and someone else.
So this is Aiden Sykes, and there is, I think that's David Nenadich, in fact, that's come out of, I think that's turn 5 and absolutely pinned them.
Little bit of a messy rejoin, maybe a bit of an abrupt rejoin from Aiden, and just not quite the reflexes you would hope for from the ZB Racing driver. But regardless, Michael, you were enlightening us what happened last night at Sydney.
So at the current, the championship situation was that Van Gisbergen had a more than 300 point lead. I think it was 350 odd, and of course using the same scoring as ASC does. The main game in the V8 Supercars gives you 300 points or 150 points for a win, but with Bathurst being the feature round, it is 300 points. So if Van Gisbergen ended the round with more than 300 points, he would go on to win the championship. And the race was washed out. Washed out after 5 laps behind the safety car. It was a proper Formula 1 Spa-Francorchamps moment.
That's what I was about to say. So that's sort of the equivalent of if Verstappen had won the championship by virtue of the Spa result.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
But I guess the mitigating factor there is that they actually just didn't award points. Whereas at Spa, I think they gave half points.
Yep.
Yeah. So they didn't award points, but because he had an unassailable lead, he won the championship, and it was
that's annoying.
Very anticlimactic.
I can imagine. That must be frustrating for whoever was running in second, who had the opportunity to fight that back.
And it was his own teammate, Jamie Winkop.
Oh no!
So a bit of a mess, much like Sydney's weather over the past month. But
much like Sydney over the past month. Let's be honest. The entire eastern seaboard of Australia just oof. Don't go there.
And by the way, if you are listening in from the eastern seaboard,
we do love you. We do love you, but
you make it hard.
Yeah, and just stay there if possible. Like, I know we're opening borders, but let's just all simmer down. Anyway,
please note none of these opinions are endorsed by ASC or by the
Alistair Schmidt or
by anyone important, really.
No, not really. Just me. Luke Rosella is still in the lead, with Benjamin Dahlia actually having jumped up into second place. So. Where is Zach Baker? Zach Baker currently having not set a time down in 14th place.
Oops,
so
that's the wrong one. I'm doing that again.
No, you're all good. We don't really have a barometer for Zach Baker's times, unfortunately, as the Great Northern, the beer from up here that's brewed not up there, in suitably bland beige tins. Bit of a moment there for Ben Hall.
Yes,
a name
indeed.
I'm not familiar with, actually.
He has been putting together a few good runs in the ASR supercars. And in fact, he's got the tribute to his good mate Luke McHugh on the front of his car. Luke McHugh, a friend of his who passed away not that long ago. So Ben Hall. In fact, we'll put that back up on screen. runs in the ASR series, so Australasian Sim Racing. I keep getting that one mixed
It used to be called Automobilista Australia.
It did indeed. A name that you guys may not be as familiar with, but has been putting a few good results in their Super 2 series. And so transitioning over to ASC 4 tonight.
Absolutely good on him. I know that they've been a little bit open with the field tonight. They've said there was no pre-qualifying like there was for the last main round. So basically open slather, whoever wants to rock up can, up to and including, I reckon 22 is the limit that we run with. Currently got 15 in the session. There is Zach Baker. And
the challenger.
The challenger, yeah. I get that's which probably is a bit of a high pressure title to have. He has been running quite well. I think he was very unlucky last week. He had last round, sorry. He had a few tangles with the man who will not be named, who caused a bit of a ruckus. But Zach probably deserved some better results. I think he did get a podium, but probably deserved more than that. 2 podiums, in fact.
He got a second in the final race and a third in the race prior as the practice session comes to a conclusion. And we'll just watch the cars come across the line and finish off. Or we'll try to. There's always a gap on track when I try to do that. It's like clockwork, really. I think that's Benjamin Dahlia in the background, just lighting it up.
In a very bright green car, it must be said.
And here's Colin Warwick. Colin Warwick finishing the session in second place. Or third place. First
place. My goodness, that was a roller coaster of emotions. So it looked like Benjamin Dahlia knocked him down to third place, and then he elevated himself to first place. And Zach Baker ended up coming in fourth in the practice session. So we do still, of course, have the actual qualifying still to come. Just that 5-minute session, which I think that's going to be interesting. I'm very much looking forward to that. Corey McFarlane on screen, very briefly, now no longer, emerged last round. Was he in Sydney 1 as well?
Yes, he was.
Yes.
He picked up a win in the last race, and I pressed the wrong button once again.
Showed himself to be pretty bloody on it in terms of pace. So be interested to see how he does tonight as well.
And we're going to go straight into qualifying now. That 5-minute qualifying session. Madbird, take us through this motorsport facility.
Yeah, because no one's familiar with Sydney Motorsport Park. We have got turns 1 and then into the hairpin turn 2. Turn 3, which is a bit of a tricky you're sort of on and off the throttle all the way through it, into turn 4, which is pretty standard. Turn 5, which is even more standard. Turn 6, also just a nice right-hander. Turn 7, you start to go downhill towards the second hairpin at turn 8. Which is quite a few lines you can take through there and quite a bit of runoff on the exit. Down into turn 9, turn 10, where you can really take the P through the runoff area to get a nice wide run into turn 11 and down the Brabham straight.
And we can see the cars coming out onto the apron now, getting ready for this 5-minute qualifying session. It looks like we have 15 cars in the server, so still quite a fair bit of room possibly for some late entries, but still 15 cars around this 3.91 kilometer track. It's going to be very, very busy very shortly as the green flag comes out and we roll on to onto the track.
Yep, so all of them moving. Looks like Zach Baker maybe at the back there. One of the ZB cars has sort of given himself a bit of a break. He's got a fair bit of space in front of him, backing up the pack behind him, as we can see. With his teammate at the very back of the grid. Never mind, we've got one more coming out right at the very back.
I think that's one of the Ultimate 9 racing cars. I think that's Lewis Wedding.
That is Lewis Wedding, yep. Giving himself a nice bit of space.
Indeed.
Yeah, so the layout we did last time out at the Druitt Park version is very tight. This is not quite that bad, but it's still not a huge racetrack, so they're going to struggle to find clear space for a hot lap as they are at the moment, because they're quite bunched up going through the second sector.
And I noticed that Luke Rosella is also still in the pit lane, as well as Aiden Sykes, so they might be making their way out a little later on. Here is the first man on track. It is Brendan Ross in the Ultimate 9 996 car. He has taken a few decent results. The Ultimate 9 car has been a story of a story of mixed fortunes, I think, between their cars, between Ross, Wedding, Rhodey, and Brunswick. A few good results, a few not quite so good results last time out, but he'll be the first one to settle up in anger for tonight's qualifying session.
Yeah, there's certainly a few drivers that we all know the names of, especially from ASR. I used to remember commentating on them back in the day as he flings himself into turn 1, which is really a sort of throw yourself in and pray kind of corner. He's managed to get through that quite well. Didn't look like he scrubbed off too much speed. Heading into the hairpin, he's gone incredibly deep.
And he's gone straight out.
That is straight back to the garage. So he has abandoned that lap almost immediately, and I can't blame him. I don't think he was getting that one back. But he might actually regret that, because now he has to do another out lap. Whereas if he just continued on, he could have at least trundled around and started a new hot lap without having to do a whole new out lap. So he's going to waste a bit more time. And we're already halfway through the session, 2 minutes and 40 seconds to go.
Yeah, that's not ideal for Brendan Ross. In fact, he might have completely thrown it away because, of course, there is a rule that you're not allowed to escape straight to the pits in this series. But regardless, we've got Kurt Stenberg on screen at the moment. He's set a 28.2 to the first sector, but the fast man on track at the moment is Zach Baker with a 27.8, just purple in the first sector. So we'll bring him up now. This is the important one here between Kurt and Baker, of course, because Baker does have to finish ahead of Kurt by at least one position to keep the championship alive.
Yeah, he does, and he's given himself the best opportunity to at the moment. He's coming up to some traffic just as they're getting to the hairpin, which he's not going to be particularly happy about. Taking a nice wide line into the hairpin. He might be able to get this job done. He might be able to get this overtake done on a qualifying lap, but it doesn't look like he is, and that guy's going to get right in his way. I'm not sure who that is ahead of him.
That is RSM Latino,
I
think.
think. So
RSM's one run wide. We'll just quickly swap over to see Colin Warwick cross the line. He's been the first one to set a real lap, 28.6 for Warwick. And we'll see Zach Baker in the slipstream of RSM Latino now.
Might actually be giving him a bit of aid there with the slipstream, but still only goes third fastest. So 0.4 of a second down on Colin Warwick.
As we just experience a little bit of server lag, that's all right. Corey as well is the one who stepped in third. In fact, Brody Steen continues his good form, jumping up into second place.
Yeah, apparently he meshes well with Sydney Motorsport Park, so he is enjoying himself around this racetrack. 0.4 of a second down on Colin Warwick still, who that's a blistering lap time apparently from Colin Warwick. Kurt Stenberg 1.5 seconds down, so he must have had a messy hot lap. He's currently on another one, which I can only assume is going to be better.
I did see his first sector time. It is just outside the fastest first sector. In fact, it's the same first sector time as we saw from Zach Baker last lap around. But it is Colin Warwick and it's a very, very close one there.
Yeah, he's got
Steve Warwick.
Steve Warwick just ahead of him, and that is not going to help his lap time at all. Doesn't really matter if the car doesn't hold you up. They're still blocking your braking zones and obscuring your vision. He's going to try to tuck it up the inside on a qualifying lap. He's had to get right out of the throttle. That will have killed that particular lap for Kurt Stenberg. It might still be a decent time. He looked like he was up, but he would be hoping that he hadn't caught Steve Warwick on that occasion. And we've just hit 0 minutes and 0 seconds in this qualifying session as Kurt Stenberg goes third. Zach Baker manages fourth. Zach Baker has actually managed to get up into second place.
And Brody Steen has jumped into third as well. So these guys are all coming across the line now. Corey Preston's dropped out of the top 5. Let's see who else is on a lap. Benjamin Dahlia is on a lap, so we can catch up with him and have a look at him. He's only 100th of a second away at the first sector mark, and he's got a bit of clear track ahead of him as well.
Yeah, so everyone is bringing their A game to this last qualifying session, short though it may have been. At the moment, Benjamin Dahlia, if he manages to keep up this pace, then he would be slotting into second place. He is slightly down on Colin Warwick's time, but up on his personal best by a large margin. I think it was about 0.4 of a second. We'll see just a second what his second sector time was.
Took a little bit to get the front dialed in there, but he comes out the other side quite nicely, uses all the road, and he's up. He's up quite nicely as well.
He definitely is, so he needs a decent run through this last sector and not to cut the track. I know we had a few people getting some track cuts for track extending here. It's pretty lenient. Oh, that looked like a bit of a slide. He managed to get it tucked in nicely, though, and hasn't scrubbed off too much speed.
We'll see this run to the line. Just a quick note, Kurt Stenberg did cross the line with a second to spare, so he's on another lap as well. But we'll watch Benjamin Dahlia. There it is, he coming. He goes top!
Oh, by 0.03 of a second. Kurt Stenberg, can he upset it? He can't. Does not improve on his best time. Is relegated down to 5th place. And Benjamin Dahlia taking out pole position in the qualifying session. But of course, we do have a top 10 shootout for the top 10 results. So this could all still be subject to change. RSM Latino, Steve Warren. Hello, everybody. Welcome me.
I pressed the wrong button again.
So we've got RSM Latino, Steve Warwick, Lewis Wedding, Aiden Sykes, and Dane Liccardo are the 5 that are set in stone. The top 10, which is Benjamin Dahlia, Colin Warwick, Zach Baker, Brody Steen, Kurt Stenberg, Corey McFarlane, David Nedidich, Alex, Ben Hall, and Brendan Ross will be taking part in the top 10 shootout and to determine the actual starting top 10.
And we kind of missed the we stopped focusing on the fight for the top 10 shootout because we got so excited about the fight for the top. But interesting as well, did we see a lap from Luke Rosella in that session? We did not.
No.
So he misses out as well, as does Lewis Wedding, who didn't set a lap. A few who didn't set a lap, Aiden Sykes and Dane Liccardo not making it to the track either. So quite a few drivers in that session not taking to the track.
Yeah, and Luke Rosella actually not in the server at the moment, so hopefully he can get back in. I did see Aiden Sykes drop out at the start of qualifying, so I know they do have a rule where if you're not in at the start of qualifying, you're not allowed to take part. So perhaps that is what happened to him. Dane Liccardo, I think, joined at the very tail end, and Lewis Wedding, as you say, he was in at the start, but just did not set a lap time, so I'm not sure what the situation is there with Lewis Wedding. But regardless, he's not in the top 10 and won't be taking part in the shootout.
So just to go over those names again, Benjamin Dahlia, Colin Warwick, Zach Baker, Brody Steen, Kurt Stenberg, Corey McFarlane, David Nedidich, Alex Cattle, Ben Hall, and Brendan Ross. Brendan Ross very lucky to get in after his mistake on his first flying lap.
Yeah, just sneaking in at the very end. But I guess it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're in the top 10 by an inch or a mile. The shootout is the shootout, to misquote Steve McQueen. And yeah, interesting that Kurt Stenberg I know he had a couple of compromised laps, but just not quite as quick by the looks of it compared to Zach Baker and Colin Warwick ahead, and Benjamin Dahlia, who sort of blew them all out of the water at the very end of the session.
And I wonder if the track condition has made it so that way. Pardon me, that the last person to get a lap was ultimately the one who was going to have the best condition. Because of course they reset it for the start of the practice server, so it might be that with that little bit of extra rubber and that little bit of space in front of him, Dahlia was able to put it all together. And he also has real life experience at this track, running the Toyota 86 the last few rounds at Sydney Motorsport Park.
Yeah, a little bit of a different car, but still, you know, you've got to think that real life experience would carry over somewhat in terms of, you know, track knowledge and just general nous around driving a car. Obviously, he's Formula 4 driver, isn't he? I'm thinking of someone else.
Quite possibly. I know that he was in the 86 because I saw that he had a praying on the first weekend of CD.
I'm sure he'll be glad that we've mentioned it.
We are gearing up for the shootout now, and it will be Brendan Ross who leads us away to take the first lap on not under lights, but under the scrutiny of all of the watching eyes, Madbird.
All those cardboard cutouts staring at him as he drives past. He'll be hoping that his first hot lap in this session goes better than his first hot lap in the previous session, where he pitched it wide at the first hairpin and abandoned his lap immediately. So hopefully he's got his eye in now with his braking point, and he knows where to brake this time around. And
he looks like he's taking this outlap quite a bit, with quite a bit of pace, Madbird. He's not holding anything back.
No, he's not babying the tyres. He's trying to get as much heat into them as he can, I suppose, on this outlap. Of course, you only get the one lap in the shootout, so he's got to make it count, I suppose, as he heads on down towards the final sequence of corners. And Ben Hall rolls to the end of the pit lane, ready to exit. Brendan Ross coming around the last corner now to start his flying lap.
and he will be the benchmark that everyone else has to follow. A bit of a wiggle as he brought the power onto the main straight, but here we go. The first one out, he set a 1 minute 30.34 to get into the shootout. Let's see if he can improve on that as he dips the car into turn 1.
Nice and tight to the apex there, and runs it just wide enough, uses all the real estate, brakes into the hairpin. Oh, and he's done it again. Not quite as bad. He's managed to keep it on the black stuff this time around, but still a little bit of a messy hairpin there. Yeah,
big real lock-up. You can see him grab a handful of opposite lock there to try and arrest the car. He sets the first sector time, and it will be a 28.2. So a bit about 5 or 6 tenths that he lost in that first sector, Madbird.
Yeah, so a bit of a messy first sector there for Brendan Ross. Hopefully he can pull it back together for the rest of the lap. And just, yeah, seems to have a bit of issue coming into that hairpin with a full head of steam. Seems a little bit tidier in the second sector of the lap.
Has looked nice and neat over the corporate hill here, sliding into turn 7. Bit narrow on exit there. Looks like he could have held a bit more pace as he dives into the downhill hairpin. We're going to read on his second sector just on the exit here, and it is a 104.6, and just this last little complex of corners to go. Pitch it right over the curve on the left, and then he uses a lot of the concrete apron on the exit there.
Yeah, the game is quite lenient, and in real life I believe they're quite lenient there in terms of people running wide, so he should be fine with that one. Tucks it up nicely on the exit and onto the Brabham straight, crosses the line with a 129.8 for his best lap.
And that's better than what he did in qualifying, so that's still an improvement for Rossi. So good job for Rossi, and we'll see how that lap works for him in the midst of this qualifying session. Now over to Ben Hall. Much more leisurely, well, maybe not leisurely, but much more measured on his approach to the start of the qualifying lap.
Yeah, was doing a few brake checks by the looks of it there, getting a nice bit of temperature into the brakes. Goes very, very wide on the last corner, wanting to give himself as much pace as possible onto this long straight, which is basically the length of the rest of the track in horizontal. Horizontal is not the word I'm looking for. Never mind, he started his lap and he pitches it into the first corner. Nice and tight with his tyres up on the curb. Very, very well done there. Runs it nice to the exit. He could have used a little bit of concrete, but chose not to. And him too. Bit of a wiggle. Much, much needed, though, into the hairpin.
Yeah, it looks like the conditions at the entry of turn 2 are catching a few drivers out, but Ben Hall's got the measure at this point, definitely over Brendan Ross. He comes down towards turn 4. What's the sector time look like? It's down. It's down by 2/10. That is a big surprise.
Yeah, I'm honestly shocked because that looked like a much neater hairpin. So I suppose maybe Brendan Ross just took a lot more pace into that first turn. It looked like he took all the track he was possibly able to. So maybe that made that big of a difference. Ben Hall now on down through to the around Corporate Hill, as you explained to me earlier. That is where it is. We were looking for it last time, but you managed to identify it into the downhill hairpin, nice and tight. And then uses a nice bit of concrete on the exit. And he's also still down 0.7 of a second. So Brendan Ross has improved markedly over the first qualifying session.
Yeah, I wonder if Hall's just leaving a bit too much out on the table there. It looks smooth, it looks all right, but it's certainly not quite at the same pace as Brendan Ross. A little wiggle on the exit of the final corner now, this long straight. Where does Ben Hall end up? Let's see if he can knock off Rossi. And it is a 30.2, so better, just a bit behind his qualifying lap. He slots into provisional second place.
He did manage to drag in about 3-4 tenths of a second compared to his second sector, so bit better in the last sector compared to the second, but still just not quite enough as we go on to Alex Cattle in the sister Red Race on Oz team to start his flying lap and see if he can improve on Brendan Ross's time. A 129.8, and in qualifying he did himself a 129.3, so based off that he should be alright to take provisional pole, but shootout is a very different very different ball game compared to regular qualifying.
He's been the first one to get the car settled on the braking to turn 2, but did run fairly deep in the mid corner there as he whips himself around turn 3 using all the curb on the inside. looks very, very smooth, but drove across a lot of track. He's up by 1/10 to the first sector, so it's fine margins at this early stage, Madbird.
Yeah, and it seems like we've got no idea what the best line through the hairpin is, because the person we thought did it the best was the slowest, and the people that we've thought, that wasn't too good, have actually done it quite well. So I suppose we'll have to wait and see what the rest of the field does. Alex Cattle through turn 6, down into under the bridge and into this downhill section. So we'll get to have a better barometer. Nice and wide there. Took all of the track he was entitled to.
A little nervous on the front there as he turned into the hairpin, but he got it settled eventually. Comes out and it's 3/10 up. So this is a good lap from Alex Cattle. Just this last section to go. Uses all the curb on the inside.
A little bit of a grass touch. I was a little bit scared there for him. Can unsettle the car, but he's managed to hold it very well. Gets a nice shot onto the start-finish straight.
No wheel spin at all there, Madbird. Perfect
nice
run
and smooth.
Out onto the main straight. And let's see what this time is for Alex Cattle. It is a 29.4, so 3/10 the gap in the end. And pretty much bang on what he did in the qualifying to get into the shootout.
Yep. So very, very consistent there from Alex, and dethrones Brendan Ross for the provisional pole. I don't think Brendan Ross was expecting to hold on to that, though, so that's fair enough. David Nadadich now starting his shootout lap, the first of our two Zach Baker racing cars, with his teammate to come later on in the session. So David Nadadich probably been a bit out of sorts. I feel like he's dropped off a bit this season, so it would be good to see him make a strong finish in this last round and in Bathurst. A little bit wiggly there going through turn 1.
But let's see through turn 2. Actually hugs the apex very nicely. The first person we've seen to get both apexes at turn 2, and hugs the left-hand side of the track to make the right-hander at 3. Uses a bit of real estate there, lays down some licorice, and he's up by 2/10.
Yep, so that definitely... Well, that one we thought looked good, and it was good. So maybe we do know what we're talking about after all. As he goes on through the other pit lane, the secondary pit lane, and swings it in to the right-hander, the right-angle left-hander even. Man, nice. I'm on fire tonight.
Nice use of curbs at turn 6, dives down the hill at 7. Uses, steps off the AstroTurf, the exit of turn 7. Very deep on the hairpin, fighting understeer the whole way around. Let's see if that affects his lap times. He comes to the second sector and he's down by 4/10.
That is a big swing. He was up by 2, now down by 4. So that is 6/10 of a second lost through that second sector. It's going to take an almighty third sector to reel that back. So I reckon he might be looking at second place at the moment. Gets a nice last corner, no wheel spin, uses all of the concrete available to him onto the start-finish straight. Down across the line, he is in second. Ended up...
wow.
Yeah, he really pulled it back after that messy second sector, and just not quite enough to overtake Alex Cattle.
Just a 36-1 played a 36-7 in the middle sector, and then a 25-1 versus a 24-8. He almost reeled that back in, did David Nenadich, but he will slot into provisional second place. Corey McFarlane, the next man out on track, coming across the line now, and he will start. He set a 29-1 to get into this shootout. Let's see where he ends up. He flies through the first corner very nicely, using all the curb on the inside, all the concrete on the outside. Very tidy line through turn 1.
Yeah, very, very good. We saw last time out, he is absolutely rapid around here, so I expect him to set a very, very representative lap time, especially with Kurt Stenberg waiting in the wings to set his own time. Little bit of a scando on the exit.
It's worked out nicely for him, though. 3/10 at the first sector.
Absolutely. So he is looking very, very good at this point, heading on through the second sector, through these right-angle corners, or almost right-angle corners.
That was a lot of road on the exit of turn 5. Maybe he's picked up a track cut. We won't find out for a little while. Very tidy through turn 6, again using the full limits of the track surface as he slides his way over Corporate Hill and into the hairpin.
Yeah, that looks very, very neat. That's the best we've seen someone take that downhill hairpin, I think. Uses all of the concrete available to him, and he's up by 0.8 of a second. My goodness, Michael.
That is huge. That is a mega middle sector for Corey McFarlane. Just this final corner to navigate. Very tidy. That we've said that plenty of times this lap. It's tidy, tidy, tidy stuff. He comes onto the main straight. Just uses every little bit of the road. now down to the start-finish line. It's been a cracking lap, and it is a 28-1. I'm going to leave that there because we've just seen Kurt Stenberg make a mistake on his outlap.
Yeah.
So let's have a quick replay of this one if we can.
Yeah, that is unfortunate. So I think it was coming down into the downhill hairpin. He's just gone very, very wide, and he's just lit it up and straight into the wall. So a little bit of damage, maybe. I can't imagine that'll be too much strife. But still, it's not the preparation you want, is it?
No, not at all. And that kind of takes away from what Corey McFarlane did in that lap. Purple sector in every single sector and set a 128-1. He's going straight into the pits.
Kurt Stenberg's coming straight. Oh,
wow.
And it looks like he cannot stop that car. That top front left. I said that it wouldn't cause him any issues. Apparently, he can't brake. So that is a bit of an issue. So that is unfortunate for Kurt Stenberg. He will be at this point starting 10th. Out of the top 10. That is a damn shame.
And look who is the next driver to make his way out of the pits. It is his championship rival, Zach Baker. So this is a bit of a free kick for Baker here. And you'd reckon that even if he doesn't quite get pole position, if he just sets a nice clean lap, he'll be in for a good shout to keep this championship going until Bathurst.
Yeah, so we've seen Kurt Stenberg's very good at making his way through a field, but obviously it's a lot harder to do that than to not have to do that. And if Zach Baker can give himself, a front row or a second row position, then that'll be a huge leg up in his quest to outscore Kurt Stenberg by 12 points, which will allow him to take it on to Bathurst. A lot of lockups it looked like from Zach Baker here. Going around all the corners, maybe just getting a bit of extra temperature into those tyres. Lots and lots of rubber being laid down. And a little bit squirrely on the exit there. He's definitely not taking it easy.
Just trying to heat up those rears and those fronts as much as possible. I wonder if this has actually been just a little bit of a mistake. Shouldn't it be Brody Steen next? He was the 4th place qualifier in that qualifying session. So maybe we've got to chase that one up afterwards. But Zach Baker is the man out on track at the moment, so hopefully we'll get some clarity on that situation. But as we made mention, has a bit of a free kick here, gets a chance to get a serious leg up on his rival, takes the long road around the final corner, trying to maximize the straight length. And here we go for Zach Baker's shootout lap, Madbirds.
Yeah, we can see also Brody Steen coming out into the pit lane, so it looks like they've just swapped around positions. So we will see a shootout lap from Brody Steen, so that's very good. Zach Baker tips it into the first corner, nice and tight. He didn't even see a touch on the brakes there. Uses every bit of concrete he possibly can into the hairpin. Nice and tidy by the looks of it. A little bit wide of the apex, but not too bad. Looks nice and quick.
Looks just a little nervous. He's taking 3 or 4 bites at the cherry every single time he turns it in. And again there as well, just a little correction in the middle of the corner. It's good though. It's very good. 0.003 of a second as he comes through the switchback at turns 4 and 5.
Yeah, and despite how far down the order, in inverted commas, these times are compared to Corey, who, as we saw, was put in an absolute blistering lap time. So 0.003 up on Corey is nothing to sneeze at.
It looks like it's just struggling with the throttle application. It's just a bit too blippy in the rear as he comes through the turn 7 and into the hairpin. Again, just a little pinch, and just you'll see it here. Just a little 1, 2, 3 grabs at the throttle there as he comes out of the hairpin. It's 4 tenths down, but remember, that's still going to be very nicely in second place here.
Yeah, Alex Cattle did have a quite poor last sector. It looked like Zach got a little bit of a clout there from the curb. Coming through the last corner, straight lines onto the concrete, gets all of the space available. As we keep saying, they know where to use, they know how to use the most of the racetrack they possibly can onto the start-finish line, and still about 0.4 of a second down Zach Baker, which is still 0.9 of a second up on Alex Cattle.
And it is 2 tenths faster than that time that Zach Baker set to get him into the shootout. So an improvement for Baker, but it just goes to show how much better that lap is from Corey McFarlane.
Yeah, it's absolutely blistering. I don't know how Corey set I don't know how he set a 29-1 during qualifying. Must have just been chaos.
I think chaos is a very likely issue.
Brody Steen, we feared he may not have got out of the pits or something, but he has managed to now. So we'll be setting his shootout lap time. And as we keep saying, he seems to be going from strength to strength. Podium win in the last 2 rounds of Sydney. So what could it be another win in Sydney 3? Let's not big him up too much, myself. Nice tidy hairpin.
Yes, very well done through the turn 2 complex. Runs a very nice constant radius through turn 3 and over the hill into turn 4. Looks nice and smooth. Only 18 thousandths of a second down on that Corey McFarlane time, but this is where the money gets paid in this middle sector, Madbird.
Yeah, Corey just had an immense middle sector, 35.7, which looks like it is about 0.4 of a second, as we saw, better than most of the drivers behind him. No one's even gotten close to it, so this is where he seems to have the control of the car, and this in particular, going through this sequence of corners, Corey looked like he was in absolute control of his car, whereas everyone else seems to be a tiny bit nervous.
But Steen's doing a very nice job. It looks smooth. Not necessarily as fast as Corey, but it's certainly smooth, and he's down by half a second, which isn't too far away. It's gonna put him right near Zach Baker as well, which could complicate things for the challenger as we come into the final complex of corners. It's been very smooth from Brody Steen, and for a long race, that bodes very nicely.
It does. So Zach Baker was 0.421 behind Corey. What will Brody Steen be as he crossed the line? He is third, 4.57, so 0.03 of a second behind Zach Baker. And unfortunately, that's enough to relegate him to third place provisionally. We do still have Colin Warwick and Benjamin Dahlia to go. And here is Colin Warwick.
Yes, Colin Warwick, the last of the Commodore. Oh, sorry, Benjamin Dahlia is also in a Commodore. Excuse me.
The second to last of the Commodores.
The second to last of the Commodore in a field that feels like it's full of Mustangs. Full of fillies, they are.
Full of fillies. Mustang Sally.
Oh, gosh, what have I done?
As they cross the line, as Colin Warwick crosses the line, I don't know what his pronouns are. Well, I just said his, so I guess I know what his pronouns are. Going into turn 1. And coming down to the hairpin, Colin Warwick, nice and neat. Little bit of a lock-up, goes a tiny bit wide going through the hairpin, but manages to tuck it up on the exit. So it looked pretty tidy. And as we saw, he set the second to fastest time in qualifying. And he is currently down by only by 0.03 of a second.
Very, very close in the first sector between a number of drivers as Colin Warwick pitches it to the left through turn 5. Oh, bit of a swapper there. Had to grab a handful of oversteer in the middle of the corner, but got it controlled. We'll see how much of an effect that has on his lap time. Didn't look to affect turn 6 all that much. And now this tricky section over turn 7 and into the hairpin. Using all the road there. Does he get the front tucked in? He does. Very nicely. It looks like the car's coming back to him as the lap goes along. What's the sector split? It's a 3-8. The only other man in the 3 so far.
Yeah, so much better than we saw from Zach Baker and Brody Steen. So looking good for a provisional second at the moment, Colin. Unless he has an absolute blistering third sector. I don't know if it's possible to make up that time based off of Corey's last sector. But coming down the start-finish line towards the line, we'll get to see what lap time he's put in, and it is good enough for second. 0.3 of a second behind Corey, however.
That's not too bad. That's not too bad. He didn't lose all that much time in the latter half of the lap. In fact, he did a better final sector than Corey McFarlane, rather, as he celebrates with a big curb hop. But here is the final runner in tonight's shootout session. A first provisional pole for Benjamin Dahlia, I think. I haven't been following that closely, but a great lap from him. The last competitive lap in the session of 28.5. This is going to be an experience for him, having the whole track to himself, being the last man out.
Yeah, absolutely. And knowing that that he could technically still be in with a shot for the championship if Kurt Stenberg, something happens to Kurt Stenberg, if he DNFs or something, and Benjamin Dahlia is at the front, then he could very possibly carry this on to Bathurst, and who knows what will happen at Bathurst. That's a lot of pressure to be riding on this young man's shoulders as he tips it into the first corner.
Oh, speedway stuff through turn 1.
That was heart-stopping as he caught a swapper in the middle of turn 1, very wide through the hairpin. But as you said, he does have experience around here in real life, so maybe this is the quick way to do it.
I'm not 100% sure about that, but it's certainly got the heart rate pumping. We'll see what the first sector says, and he's at 28.1, so not quite where he wants to be. In fact, that's about 0.3 away from the whole lot in the top half of the field at the moment. Looks much more smooth through 4 and 5. Let's see if he can just get it measured, get it back under him. for this final half of the lap. Very nice through 6, just nicked the curb there, and then through 7 and 8, and we'll get a second time on the exit of turn 8.
Yep, so down through this downhill section that everyone seems to sort of be struggling with. Seems pretty tidy through it. Gets all the way to the left-hand side for a nice wide turn in into the hairpin. Nice and tidy on the exit. Didn't look like any wheel spin, and he's actually lost time, down 0.5 of a second now. So at the moment, looking like 5th place for for Benjamin Dahlia.
Oh, very wide through 10. He rode the inside of the curb through 9 as well. It kind of hooked the car across, and speedway style out. It's all fallen a bit apart for Benjamin Dahlia, but he'll come across the line and set the final time in the shootout. It'll be a 28.3.
Oh!
3rd place.
How did he do that? So he must have had a mammoth last sector. We're just waiting for our live races to update. So 24.4.
Yes, best by 0.2 of a second. So that wide line seemed to work it out for Benjamin Dahlia, and he eclipses Zach Baker by 1/100th of a second, Madbird.
Yeah, so very, very, very last gasp stuff there for Benjamin Dahlia, getting onto the second row of the grid. So at the end of our shootout standings, Corey takes out a well-deserved pole position. Colin Warwick in 2nd place on the 1st row, and then Benjamin Dahlia and Zach Baker, who are the 2 championship challengers, the 2 men who are mathematically capable of winning this championship on the 2nd row, with Kurt Stenberg starting all the way down in 10th, Michael.
Yeah.
We're set up.
It's going to be a very complicated run for Stenberg from that 10th place. It's going to be, I'm very excited. 250 Ks to come. One definitely, probably 2 pit stops. It's going to be a long race. It's going to be a race that's going to give people tyre concerns. It's going to be probably the longest stint that anyone's done for quite a while. Anything could happen tonight, Madbird.
I'm excited, and we do have those 64 laps still to come. And yeah, just it seems like every time something's going to happen, like it seems like the season just sets itself up perfectly for drama. So Kurt Stenberg, can he push through from 10th place?
And that is a question that is going to be on everyone's lips tonight. What we'll do in the meantime is we'll take a quick break here at ASC, and we'll be back just after this.
Hello, everybody. Welcome backstage for the Automobilista Supercars Championship Bathurst 1000 stream, brought to you by Apex Rear Wing. This is just to give you a little look at our setup for the race today. So we've got our big main camera here, which is shooting our desk there. So that's when we're to camera, doing our little wrap-ups and stuff. That's where we're going to be. We've got these lovely green things, just sort of fake foliage to give us a bit of sound muffling, and also some very classy flamingo designs. We've got James behind the camera, currently filming me as I'm speaking. Over here, we've got Stairs currently doing something very important before the stream begins. And indeed, he's got some gaffer tape, so we won't interrupt him. But if you just come over here, you can see the enormous setup that we have. We've got 4 monitors, one of which is a TV, on which you can see Maddie Dunlop and Josh Bagsy. Bagsy's currently completing a Rubik's Cube, so you can see we're intelligent and talented here at Apex Rear Wing. So we've got 3 keyboards. We have got 3 mice. We have got a switcher. We have got 4 monitors. We're going to have 3 computers running. If you just come down here really quick, you can see we've got 1 computer over here, and then we've got another one here, and then we've got a 3rd one over here. So lots and lots of technology back here. The 21st century, isn't it? So, and then through this door over here, if you just have we probably don't need to go in there, but if you just pop over here, James, and just have a sneaky peek through there, you'll be able to see that is our Kart FX bunker, where we've got Michael Zalavari doing some very important work on the whiteboard. So that's just a quick little brief look at the backstage here for the Automobilista Supercars Championship Bathurst 1000, and hope you've enjoyed.
Here we are for the finale of our Sydney swing at Sydney Motorsport Park, the 3.93 kilometre circuit. We've seen already the fly through turn 1, 2 and 3, that terrifying first sector, and then the middle sector where all of the difficult stuff is, 4, 5, 6 and 7. Previous race lap record is Dane Warren, of course, a 126.285. We might get close to that this evening with the longer session, allowing the track to rubber in. He also holds the qualifying record with a 26.2. Last time out, we had Kurt Stenberg and Colin McFarlane taking the race wins. We are just moments away from the race session. A few people just finishing off the qualifying session, doing some practice starts here. Is Brody Steen?
Brody Steen, indeed. Also one of the previous winners here at Sydney Motorsport Park. And I find it interesting that Dane Warren's race lap record is 0.4 of a second faster than his quali lap record, which just shows that once you're in a race, it doesn't really matter that your tyres aren't as pristine as they might be in qualifying. It doesn't really matter if you've got a bit of extra fuel in your tank. Over the course of the race, you get yourself into a groove, and you've got the opportunity to go quite a bit faster than you sometimes can in qualifying. And I find that I always found that I perform better in the race than I do in qualifying because there's so much pressure in qualifying, and especially with a shootout.
And especially with a 5-minute qualifying session to start with.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, I don't think I've ever been in a 5-minute qualifying session. That looked, yeah, wow. Not quite as hectic as I have seen, but still hectic. It looks like we've actually picked up a couple of extra drivers during the warm-up session. So Luke Rosella, Cameron Parrott have appeared. And I reckon another one, I reckon there's another one we're missing. No,
Quite perhaps.
maybe not. Quite perhaps.
Indeed. Just a quick reminder of the point standings. We will harp on about this throughout the night, but Madbird, do you want to clarify for us what the situation is for Kurt Stenberg to take the championship tonight?
It's pretty simple. As long as Kurt Stenberg finishes ahead of Zach Baker, he wins the championship for the second time in the 3 years of ASC running. If he finishes behind Zach Baker, then Zach can carry it on to the Bathurst 1000. In order for Benjamin Dahlia to mathematically be able to win the championship, Kurt needs to finish 24th or worse, which in this case just means a DNF because there is no 24 cars in the race. So he would need to DNF in order for Benjamin Dahlia to wind up still mathematically there for Bathurst 1000.
And we are ready for the race session now. So, 64 laps, 250 kilometers, 17 cars, Madbird. What are you expecting from tonight's action?
I am expecting to see Kurt Stenberg absolutely tilting his way through as we see one of the Ultra 9 cars repositioning himself on the grid. I'm expecting to see Kurt Stenberg blistering his way up through the field, but starting from 10th, I mean, he will. I have no doubt that he will make it up to the podium positions. But I suppose the question is, by the time he gets there, will the likes of Corey, Colin Warwick, Zach Baker, Benjamin Dahlia, will they have absolutely cleared off into the distance and leave him struggling to catch up? Looking at a couple of pit stop opportunities, so probably a little bit of strategy drama, which should be good, as we see Corey lighting up his rears on the start, laying down some rubber in his grid box.
That's the one that I wanted. There we go. And here is the grid. It is, as we've made mention, Corey Preston starting from pole position, cracking lap in qualifying.
McFarlane even.
Corey McFarlane, indeed.
There is a Corey Preston.
There is. Can tell that I've not done this for a little while. He leads on the front row from Colin Warwick and the Warwick Racing Team number 53 machine, the Canteen-powered car, ahead of the provisional pole sitter Benjamin Dahlia. Didn't quite get it hooked up in qualifying in the shootout, but still a good lap nonetheless. Then it is the Challenger. Oh, we have a disqualification for Alex Cattle, I think that is.
Yeah, not sure what's happened there. He's just sitting in the garage at the moment. Looks like he went down to the end of the pit lane.
And maybe went over the pit exit?
Maybe.
Yes, indeed.
Yep.
So that's why he's been disqualified. So, sorry, might try and bring up a replay of that. No, we won't have time. Zach Baker in fourth. Brody Steen in fifth place on the grid. And then the next of the ZB... Oh, this is where Alex Cattle was meant to be. He's been disqualified plainly, so we're not sure whether or not they're going to restart and allow him to get back in. David Nenadic will start in 7th. Brendan Ross will start in 8th. Ben Hall in 9th. And then the champion-elect, Kurt Stenberg, in 10th place, Madbird.
Yeah, way down in 10th place, so that is a shame for him. In 11th place, we have RSM Latino. Behind him, Steve Warwick, father of Colin. In 13th place, we have got Dane Liccardo, who can sometimes attract a little bit of drama. Hopefully tonight manages to keep it all clean, as we see a little bit of server lag.
I think, in fact, we are resetting the race session. So,
that was seeing the replay of that. Alex Cattle basically poked his nose over the line, so I can see why they've decided to relent and restart the session for him there, because that would be a cruel way to miss out on a 64 lap race.
So here we are once again at the start line of Sydney Motorsport Park.
You get used to doing this commentating for ASC.
Yeah.
So it's getting some build up and then, okay, we're starting again. They like to keep us guessing. Man, that is a long staircase on the side of that pit building, isn't it? That'd be, imagine humping up that on a hot day. Often carrying all your camera equipment if you're like, geez, that would not be fun.
I'm sure there's an elevator.
There probably is. And the stairs probably just there for, for emergencies.
Yeah.
But, I like to imagine people like myself trying to walk up several flights of stairs. I mean, you'd probably just charge up at you, Iron Man, hiking from Glenelg to Mount Lofty. Piece of shit. No, I joke.
No, thank you. Didn't you just go camping at Deep Creek? There's quite a fair bit of camping, hiking trails down there.
There are tons. I was hungover, sleeping in a tent. I was doing no hiking whatsoever. But I appreciate you giving me an out. Oh, my goodness. So we've got a couple of minutes here of warm-up session while I think they reset the grid.
To use something the Stairs said a few weeks ago, Madbird, what's your favourite anecdote?
One of my favourites is that Brendan Ross has just put in the chat, my bladder is very happy for the restart. So
silver linings.
Silver linings, he gets the chance to go empty himself. I think it's got to come back to yet another Stairs pooping anecdote.
Oh God!
Which was when we went camping last year in the Flinders Ranges, and he left himself what he thought was enough time to get out of his tent and go lay a log, as he said it, and then his zip got stuck, and so he had to rush. Tripped over himself, and you should hear the way he talks about this thing. It's like how people talk about, the biggest fish they ever caught. He's like, I swear it was as long as my arm, and it didn't fit in the hole, and all this, that, and the other. And me and my friend Mitch, just asleep in our tent, just hear running footsteps. And we're like, what was that? That's a bit strange. And turned out it was just him desperately trying to get far enough away for him to plant this tree stump. That he apparently did.
Oh my gosh.
I was half expecting him to wander up as I was telling that anecdote and start yelling at me or something, but that hasn't eventuated. What has eventuated is it looks like we've got everybody out on the grid for the race. Oh, we're missing still a few people. We're missing Lewis Wedding, Luke Rosella, and Kurt Stenberg still in the pits. Looks like they're slowly coming out. Yep.
And Kurt Stenberg, we've got Kurt Stenberg there. We're missing 5th place on the grid, which is Alex Cattle again. But this time it is immaterial because it is Corey McFarlane once again who leads us off, and we'll find him. Oh, it doesn't look like Alex is even there. Oh, that's a shame after all that. But Madbo, do you want to take us through the grid?
Absolutely. Corey, I nearly said Preston.
Yes.
Corey McFarlane, who nearly swerved into Colin Warwick, doing some sick 11sies off his grid box, starts in pole position with Colin Warwick behind him in 2nd place, hoping for a decent result on his return. Benjamin Dahlia, who did have provisional pole, as you said previously, in the qualifying session, wasn't able to hook it up in the shootout, but still good enough for 3rd. So what can he do from there? Can he keep this championship technically going on until Bathurst? In 4th place, we have Zach Baker, who's actually a few cars down in the order, so we'll have to jump back to him in a few moments. But can he keep himself ahead of Kurt Stenberg and carry it on into the Bathurst 1000? Brody Steen going from strength to strength. Podium win. What can it be tonight for Brody Steen, starting from 5th? In 6th place, we have David Nadich, teammate of Zach Baker, hoping for a decent result. In 7th place, we have got Brendan Ross, who improved on his woeful first qualifying lap, it must be said, to come in with a decent shootout lap. In 8th place, we have Ben Hall with that tribute there on his bonnet, as we said earlier on. 9th place, we have got RSM Latino with 10th place Steve Warwick behind him for company, father of Colin Warwick, with Kurt Stenberg in 11th place for some reason. So I'm not sure what's happened there, but looks as if our champion-elect will be starting from 11th rather than 10th.
Very peculiar, that one.
Very peculiar. So it looks like Steve Warwick's jumped him for some reason. Not sure. In 12th place, we have Dane Liccardo. In 13th, we have Aiden Sykes, who did not make qualifying, unfortunately. In 14th place, we've got Luke Rosella, who we would expect to be much further up than that. Did not qualify also, so expect him to come flying through the grid. 15th, we've got Lewis Wedding, who's basically bump drafting Luke Rosella through that last corner, and they have to slam on the brakes as everybody comes to almost a screeching halt just in front of them. And last place, we've got Cameron Parrott, who joined after qualifying and after the shootout, rounding out our grid in 16th. So unfortunately, we have lost Alex Cattle, so that is why we've got the 16 runners instead of the 17. And Kurt Stenberg, not entirely sure where he's meant to be going by the looks of it. He's sort of making his way back through the... There we go. He's now swung into one of the grid slots, and I think we are ready for a race start. Very lopsided on that left-hand side. They have not lined up particularly neatly at all.
Not at all, but it is immaterial at this point. It's 64 laps. We are just moments away from the penultimate round of the ASC. And we're off. And it looks like a very clean start from the mid-pack. Someone's gone nowhere in the background.
That is Aiden Sykes, I think.
But it will be Colin Warwick who comes through to take the lead, takes the whole shot around the outside into turn 1.
Yep, and Zach Baker and Benjamin Dahlia side by side going through turn 1 as well, with Brody Steen right behind him. Looked like there was a little bit of bumping going on in the background there, but we've managed to get through pretty much unscathed as they come through the right-hander there. And
oh, someone's off in the background. That looks like one of the Ultimate 9 cars. It looks like it might be Lewis Wedding. We'll just stay with the front group as we try and figure out what's happened there. It's cars everywhere in the background, Madbird.
Yeah, a little bit messy. Just as I was saying that it looked like it was quite a clean first sector, Colin Warwick has got a little bit of a gap on Corey McFarlane just behind him. Benjamin Daly has managed to win out against Zach Baker for that 3rd place at the moment, with Zach Baker defending against his... Actually, Zach Baker's falling down the grid. David Nadich is in 4th place,
and
his
Brody's,
teammate.
Brody Steen as well has dropped down quite a bit. We'll just catch a replay of what happened to Lewis Wedding. Oh, no, we won't, but we can try. As Colin Warwick still leads us away.
It looks, yeah, it looks. Here we go. So a replay of what happened. Looks like he got tagged by Cameron Parrott going through the hairpin. A little bit messy there. And Cameron slowed down to give the position back, but Lewis, that's cold comfort for Lewis, who was well and truly around. And it looks as if disaster for Zach Baker, down into 9th place. So he is now 4 cars behind Kurt Stenberg, who has predictably had a decent first lap. He's up into 6th place. So Zach Baker here on your screen must have had a tangle somewhere, maybe with Brody Steen, as we said, because Brody's down in 11th behind him. And now has it all to do. He looked like he was in a commanding position for this championship fight, and now he's got to try to overtake Kurt Stenberg and take that position back.
And he's got Brody Steen right there with him as well. They're side by side going through turns 2 and 3 this time around. Steen around the outside. Great move from Brody Steen.
Yeah, so something's happened to Zach Baker. Maybe he's got some damage because he's just lost a position to Steve Warwick as well, which seems surprising. I would not expect him to lose a position to Steve Warwick on pace. No offense to Steve Warwick, but I don't think he'd be too upset about that. Aiden Sykes has DNF'd as well, so maybe he has technical difficulties. But Zach Baker down into 11th place, so all going wrong for Zach Baker at this stage in terms of the championship.
We'll keep our eyes on that throughout the evening, but out the front it is Colin Warwick versus Corey McFarlane and Benjamin Dahlia. McFarlane right on the rear bumper of the Canteen Warwick Racing Team number 53 machine as they come into the final corners for lap 2.
Yeah, it needs a decent slipstream down into turn 1. It's almost like... what was the racetrack they went to? It's almost like Interlagos, where you don't really want to make the position down into turn 1, because then there's a little bit more of a straight into the hairpin. And if you're on the outside, then they've got the inside into the hairpin. So it's a little bit messy. And it looks like these three are going to be line astern through the first corner. And in they go. No overtakes happening at this stage, although Corey looks like he's shooting for the
comes
inside.
Out. Big dive from McFarlane. Gets it held up to get it closed. Just, and there's a touch in the background as well. That was David Nedich and Kurt Stenberg, but McFarlane gets that move done, and he's skirted out the other side.
Yeah, Kurt Stenberg making that position on David Nedich, so he's up into 5th place, and getting, Zach Baker will probably be saying, David, could you just punch him off for me? Because that would be helping me out quite a lot. Kurt Stenberg up 7th places from his start. Predictably, just incredible driving from the championship elect.
And Baker's still struggling. Look at him. He's down in 11th, and he's falling off the back of Steve Warwick as well. So maybe this is... the only thing I can think of is that it's a tyre strategy. He's trying to run a bit longer on this tyre, but that's very, very ambitious to be going from this far out, to be falling down the field this far.
Absolutely polar opposite fortunes for the two fighting over the championship. Kurt up 7 places, Zach down 7 places. So that's unfortunate. David Nadich not falling away from Kurt Stenberg really. He's still there, so he can, if he can just sort of keep the pressure on, maybe force Kurt into an error. It's all helping out his teammate, and I imagine that would be what the if these two had a championship discussion before the race, I imagine that's probably what they were discussing.
We'll jump on board with Benjamin Dahlia as we come through the first corner. He's just got, that's Colin Warwick just ahead of him. Zach McFarlane runs very, very wide. Corey McFarlane, other one's very wide.
And he manages to hold on to it. Looked like Colin was a little bit anxious there, which I could understand. Corey looked like he was, for all money, out of control on the grass. Managed to pull it up in time, but Colin probably could have had a go there down the inside, but was a little bit nervous too, and probably rightly so. But he's not losing much time to Corey, it must be said. He's hanging on there really, really well.
And just quickly, shout out for this guy, Luke Rosella,
Holy heck.
up 11 positions from the outside the top 10 into 4th place. He's right on the tail of this leading group. It's now a leading quartet.
What an incredible first 4 laps for Luke Rosella. I hadn't even noticed that. Very good pick, Michael. That is an incredible start from Luke Rosella. We said that we expected him to be higher up, and he apparently agreed, because he is now knocking on the door of the podium. And these top 4, you could throw a blanket over the 4 of them. It's, 1.1 seconds covers the top 4.
It's very, very tightly run stuff here as we come through the final corner. Corey McFarlane, Colin Warwick, Benjamin Dahlia, Luke Rosella. It's 4 laps down. I've already out of breath. We've got another 60 to go, Madbird.
Yeah, we're going to have to pace ourselves, I reckon, as Corey gives a nice slipstream to Colin Warwick all the way down the start-finish straight. It's not too powerful, really. But Colin looking like he wants to have a go down the inside, but doesn't quite. Probably thinks better of it. He's sizing himself up for a nice shot down the inside into the hairpin. He jinxed that way, but Corey didn't even need to cover it. Colin knew that he was too far behind, and obviously a fair bit of respect between these drivers. Still Benjamin Dahlia and Luke Rosella right behind them. So this top 4 are just dragging themselves out and away. Kurt Stenberg is just behind them, about 4 or 5 car lengths adrift.
And you can see him there.
Still a bit of a watching brief on this top 4. If they have a tangle, then that's all she wrote for the championship, it looks like.
Absolutely, and on that championship battle as well, Zach Baker down in 12th at the minute,
no.
12 seconds down from the lead. He's nowhere at the moment. So this is certainly looking like a free kick to Kurt Stenberg, perhaps, and likely that he'll take the crown into the final round of the championship. Check out the gap between McFarlane and Warwick, though. There's nothing in it as they come out of the hairpin. Yeah,
just riding each other's bumpers, essentially. And yeah, Zach must have damage. I can't imagine that this is a strategy call. It seems like it just seems like he's got no pace. I don't know what's happened, but anyway, we must continue on as Corey leads them down the start-finish straight once again. These top 4 spreading out just a little bit. Luke Rosella losing touch just a tiny bit as they come through turn 1. And Colin Warwick, once again, looking like he wants to shape up for a run down into the hairpin, is not able to do so. But these 4 are just... the concertina effect through the hairpin is absolutely insane.
And it looks like Corey's actually just eked out a little bit of a gap on the exit of turn 3. He's got a car length and a half buffer between himself and Colin Warwick. As the field comes through turns 4 and 5 once more. Oh, a little bit of a moment there for Corey. And he'll fall into the clutches of Colin. Early stages of the race here, but still this battle is prevailing. We've got 60 or almost 60 laps, 58 laps left. And it's going to be quite a tussle if this is anything to go by. Welcome, Stairs.
Hello, I'm just filling in for Madbird, who's filling in for me. I've just come and, well, I don't know anything about this race, Michael, so I can see it's only 6 laps old and that Corey McFarlane is leading. And just looking at the live timing screen, not a huge amount of surprises. Maybe Kurt Stenberg's a little bit lower. What we're seeing here is Zach Baker and Steve Warwick having a bit of a battle. So Zach Baker's a lot lower than I would have expected to see him. What's happened there?
Yeah, so there was a first lap fracas that we did just miss a little bit, which saw Zach Baker drop down the order. Remember, of course, this is the championship battle. I'm going to leave that behind because the move is on out the front. And there was a significant look there from Colin Warwick, but not in the end what he was after. But yes, Zach Baker had a bit of a moment, we think, with Brody Steen on the first lap and dropped well down the order after Kurt Stenberg had a problem in the shootout and actually hit the wall on his outlap. So a bit of a wild championship night already, but this has been the main story that we're keeping track of, as well as, of course, this battle out the front. Corey McFarlane, Colin Warwick, Benjamin Dahlia, Luke Rosella well up the grid from where he started. So this is keeping us full of intrigue. It doesn't look like anyone's willing to make a move though, because of course a very long race still to come. We are only, 18 kilometers into a 250 kilometer race? So everyone's willing to just sit in line and conserve as much as they can. Kurt Stenberg hasn't quite gotten onto the back of this group though.
Ooh, just on our other screen as we cut to it, we've got this continuing side-by-side action between Zach Baker and Steve Warwick. Zach Baker, who needs to outscore Kurt Stenberg by quite some margin to keep the championship alive.
Only 12 points to keep it alive.
Well, that's quite some margin when Kurt Stenberg is in 5th place.
It is indeed when Kurt Stenberg is ahead. Corey McFarlane starting to maybe make a little bit of a break, and looking like Benjamin Dahlia is closer to the rear of Colin Warwick than has been in previous laps. Ooh. Even Luke Rosella having a look in the background there this time around. But they again continue without making a pass.
Luke Rosella, the 3rd driver in this field who actually has a chance of winning the championship, and I use that term mathematically only because he needs to outscore Kurt Stenberg, I understand, by around about 230. I'm getting that completely wrong. That's Benjamin Dahlia I'm thinking of, who's in 3rd.
Yes, we did go through the championship scenarios. Basically, for Benjamin Dahlia still to have a chance, if you've not written it down, Kurt Stenberg needs to DNF. That's for 50 points for starting the race.
There was only 16 cars in the race.
Indeed, so Kurt needs the DNF of Dahlia to have any sort of a hope. And then Dahlia
114 points for finishing last in this race. Well, actually, Aiden Sykes probably wouldn't get that because he hasn't finished.
Indeed.
So that is the prerequisite.
Oh, big!
Whoa! I think that Ultimate 9 car went round.
Let's have a quick look, see if we can find it.
This is much more fun with you.
I know.
Controlling everything.
It was Brendan Ross. He didn't quite go around, just the typical Brendan Ross style of lighting it up on the rears. But it is this battle pack of 4. It's still continuing to plot along here.
These guys are biding their time, Michael.
Yeah, no one's really making a move. No one's really stretching the advantage.
This time 2 weeks ago, these guys were absolutely all over each other like a cheap suit. You know, trying to like sardines trying to get out of a tin, as a PE teacher I once had in primary school once said to us when we were playing floor hockey.
We're all in the old anecdotes tonight.
I'll have to watch back what you guys did before I arrived.
I took no part in that conversation. I'll let you know.
What? So Madbird was having a conversation with himself, was he?
He was having a conversation with the viewers.
Oh, I see.
Still, they're all very content to sit in line. What else is happening around the track? We'll see if we can bring you
I apologise to any of our viewers who might have experienced some accidentally crinkly ASMR. I suddenly got foisted into the commentary seat after I got home a minute. I'd been home for a minute, and so I have to give myself sustenance.
Get a quick meal in. So we've got eyes on this battle. This is the only other major battle on track. David Nenadic has gotten onto the tail of Brendan Ross, who has been struggling with the rear tyres, unsurprisingly, considering, it is Brendan Ross. So they've been at it hammer and tong for the moment. Brody Steen still dropped a fair way away. He's 3 seconds behind this battle, just in the background of shot. But these guys are 6 seconds behind the battle over the first place. The battle over first.
It's a decent showing for David Nenadic. He's been outclassed by Zach Baker in quite a number of rounds that we've had recently, as we just see the Ultimate 9 car go off.
Huge moment for Brendan Ross. We'll actually try and see if we can pick that up on the replay, if I can remember the...
Yeah, you got it. And then you do this.
That one, yes, there we go. We got there in the end. So we'll watch Ross. He had a big swap in the middle of that corner, and then just managed to gather it up without hitting the wall. So
less grip on that part of the... I was going to say track, but the grass is not part of the track.
Indeed, it is not. So back up the head of the field. It looks like Kurt Stenberg's actually tacked onto the back of this group now. So it's a battle of 5. Or is it a battle of 1 plus 4 now? Because Corey McFarlane is trying to break away.
Someone is waiting to pull the trigger here. What are our pit window calculations that we've got?
We don't have any because it's a no compulsory pit stop. So just 2 times
they
time.
will have to do time.
Absolutely.
Probably a 2-stop strategy, I would have thought.
So that would mean about lap 20 and about lap 40 would be the what they call the even tire strategy.
Yeah. Sorry, you caught me
mid-shoot. So split the race into 3 even chunks to equalize the load on your tires. Otherwise, you might be able to run the fuel long, maybe do 25, 26 laps on a tank of fuel, and then shorten that last stint to maybe 16, 17 laps, perhaps, or even a bit shorter. So a variety of options available as we do another driver swap in the commentary booth.
Yeah, I'm very sorry about that, Michael. I'm very sorry to our friend Stairs, who had to jump in the second that he stepped through the door, without me realising my bladder issue had become rather urgent, just as Aiden Sykes was in the pre-race. So it was actually very fortuitous timing that Stairs happened to return. You got to hear his dulcet tones and rapper crinkling, but there it is.
Oh, just on screen now is Zach Baker versus Dane Liccardo. Baker's managed to recover just a little bit, but there was almost a little bit of a moment there with Liccardo and Baker very, very close through turn 5. As a certain Madbird would say, nuts to butts.
Nuts to butts, yep. And anything with Dane Liccardo involved, I'm a little bit nervous. So Zach Baker coming back up through the field a little bit, still down 4 or 5 positions, but he is starting to claw those back. And at the moment, he is only about... Well, I say only, he is 20 seconds behind Kurt Stenberg currently in this race, but he does have some clear track ahead of him, about 10 seconds up the road to Brody Steen.
So hopefully Baker can, if he manage his tyres and get through the field, he's not going to manage his tyres nicely if he keeps doing that.
That is very, very tight for the top 5, as we see this very nice helicopter view that vanishes in an instant, thanks Automobilista.
Classic.
Classic Automobilista, but these 5 are not separating, they're not parting ways anytime soon by the looks of it. There is about a 4/10 gap between Colin Warwick and first place man Corey McFarlane, and that's about the biggest one out of these top 5. My goodness, they are close together, and I thought that was going to be an absolute multi-car collision, but it did not eventuate. Incredible camera shot there. Thank you to our director Michael Zalavari.
I like trying fun things. This is I'm like a kid in a playground at the moment as everyone flies through the exit. Oh, big slide from Corey McFarlane on the exit of the hairpin. This is, for a procession, it's a very, very good one at the moment.
It's an enjoyable procession, isn't it? But I think it's because it constantly looks like one of them's about to outbrake themselves and fly into the back of the one in front of them, but hasn't happened as yet.
Not quite, not quite. There is still time, though. There is, in fact, plenty of time. There's also this battle just a bit further back. Brendan Ross in the middle of Brody Steen and David Nenadich. So we saw Brendan Ross have that big swapper moment earlier on. He's now under fire from Brody Steen. So that's something that we'll keep track of as well. And Zach Baker has just broken away just a little bit from Dane Liccardo further down the field.
Yeah, and if David Nenadich, Brendan Ross, and Brody Steen keep tangling, then that'll help Zach Baker out in his quest to climb back up the field. He's got 10 seconds to catch that battle, which seems like quite a bit, but we are only on lap 13 of 64 here, so I'm used to commentating much shorter races of these guys, so it's going to be tricky to force myself to remember. They've got plenty more time than usual.
Yes, it's going to be a slog, as we just saw side-by-side action between Brody Steen and Brendan Ross.
An enjoyable slog, though.
An enjoyable slog.
Yeah.
It's like a hoik out to cow corner over mid-wicket.
I've literally no idea what that means. But I appreciate the effort. As I heard my good oldest friend Stairs say, he won't know what that means. Just off to my left. But
good stuff.
Colin Warwick appears to have caught up to Corey McFarlane. Not that he was very far behind at any one stage. Through that lap, he is right on the back of him, going through the last corner here. And these 5 cars just are frozen in place by the looks of it. Look at that. That's almost like they're flying in formation. There was perfect gaps between all 5 of them.
They're connected by the bungee cord, the invisible bungee cord, Madbird.
Yeah, just like Need for Speed back in the day.
Yeah. Oh, bro.
Or those cops, you'd get away from them and then they'd just come flying back up behind you and you'd be like, mate, I'm so much faster than you. Stupid computer game.
Did you just trigger yourself?
I did. I've awakened a memory I never knew that I hated, but nevertheless, it's there. Corey McFarlane just stretching out from Colin Warwick a little bit through that first sector, and by stretching out, it's 0.4 of a second. Really, not that much.
That's the biggest gap that Corey McFarlane's enjoyed all race as they fly through turn 4 and turn 5 once again. It almost seems that everyone's waiting for something, waiting for Godot, waiting for a sign to start kicking things off. They're very content to sort of sit in this formation at the moment, save tires, save fuel, and just sort of match each other's pace without too much aggression at this point.
I suppose a safety car would be the only thing they could really be waiting for. One of them's going to pit. I can only imagine that, Luke Rosella or Kurt Stenberg is going to say, look, I'm in 4th or 5th and I'm not making any headway on these 3. I'm gonna hop into the pits and try to get a lap of fresher tyres to try to get those positions done in the undercut. Whoa!
Bit of a slide there for Benjamin Dahlia in the mid-corner, and he's going to be under heavy threat from Luke Rosella as they come down the main straight.
Yeah, and he's not moving out to defend because Luke Rosella knows it's not worth shoving your nose up the inside of turn 1, but he is going to have an absolute huge amount of closing speed coming down into the hairpin. Is he going to dive for the inside? He does not. So they remain as they were. I thought for all money that Benjamin Dahlia was losing that 3rd position, but he manages to hold on to it for now.
What this has done, though, Madbirds, is allowed Corey McFarlane to stretch out to almost a second at the head of the field. He's got it's a little bit of daylight, just a little bit, to enable him to set his own pace and run at his own rate. Maybe Colin Warwick is just focusing a little too much on his mirrors, just a bit too much pressure from behind, even with Benjamin Dahlia throwing it sideways in the exit of the last corner there.
Yeah, definitely. So Corey doesn't have to worry too much about what's happening right behind him on his bumper and can instead worry more about what's in front of him and just sort of get into that groove we were talking about pre-race where you propel yourself along faster and faster, and he's actually gained, he's extended his advantage out to over a second now. So Colin Warwick well and truly losing touch. He's thinking far too much about Benjamin Dahlia in his mirrors, as we were just saying.
So here is our race leader. You can see that the little bit of gap that he's got now as he comes out of the last corner. A big slide from Colin Warwick. So Benjamin Dahlia might be the one this time around to have the run. And look at the gap now. It's stretched out to just over a second. It feels like more in the context of this race. They've been so close for so long now. 16 laps. That's a quarter of the race down, Madbird.
It is. And
they're on lap 16. Apologies.
I gotcha. Benjamin Dahlia looks for the inside into the hairpin, but isn't able to get the job done. We did see last time out at Sydney 2, that once Corey got a little bit of space, he was actually very, very quick, much quicker than he is in combat, as it were. As Colin Warwick runs wide, Benjamin Daly is going to be down the inside at turn 4, and he's got the job done.
Wow.
Into the second sector they go, with Colin Warwick dropping down into 3rd place. He's not going to be too happy about that. Looked like a totally unforced error. Just ran wide coming out of turn 3.
Let's see if we can get a replay of that one. You can just see he tipped off the edge of the curb, and Dahlia was straight down the inside and side through like a knife to take that position. So Dahlia into 2nd now, and that puts Warwick into 3rd. Rosella still stays 4th with Stenberg right behind him. But this 4 has compressed immensely, and it's actually allowed McFarlane to step out to a 2.5 seconds at the moment.
Yeah, and Benjamin Dahlia now looks like he's looking in his mirrors, as Colin Warwick is very, very unhappy about losing that position. And it appeared to have a bit more pace through the 2nd sector. It's managed to stretch out a little bit by the time they've reached the start-finish straight here. And it looks as if Luca Rosella is actually shaping up for an attempt on Colin Warwick. He's right on his bumper, coming down and into turn 1.
We'll stay with this, but there's also a battle on in the mid-pack just behind this, but we'll go through turn 1. Warwick got a great run through turn 1, got a full head of steam. He's going to dive down to the inside at turn 2. Can Benjamin Dahlia hang it around the outside? It's going to be very tight. They're going to be side by side. There's a little bit of side-to-side contact, but Dahlia will prevail. Is there a hole for Rosella to sneak into? Not quite, but it's very, very close run through the turn 1 and 2 complex. Oh, big dive from Warwick! And he makes it work. There's a little bit of a touch. It's all going off now.
That was very, very ambitious. He's managed to pull it off. Benjamin Dahlia might lose 2 positions, and he does. Luca Rosella up on the inside. He's going to have to go around the long way at turn 6. Benjamin Dahlia makes it very difficult for him, and rightly so. And Benjamin Dahlia with a little bit of a lit up rear, and they side by side again through turn 7. Downhill into turn 8, where Luca Rosella swaps across and manages to cut the nose off of Benjamin Dahlia without actually making contact, secures that 3rd position. So Benjamin Dahlia losing 2 positions during that lap.
And it was all because Colin Warwick got a great run through turn 1. It was just a full head of steam, and Dahlia had no recourse. There was no blocking that he could do because the pace differential was just so much. Now it looks like Kurt Stenberg's going to be the one to have another go, to have the next shot at the rear of Benjamin Dahlia as they come down the main straight. This has allowed Corey McFarlane jump out to 2.5 seconds, Madbird.
That's massive.
On that last lap, it was a 30 flat versus a 30.4. The lap times haven't updated yet on our live timing, but it's certainly exploded out the front.
Yeah, it has. So 2.5 seconds now the gap for Corey McFarlane, which it was a 129.9 actually on the previous lap, with a 139 being
for Colin Warwick.
For Colin Warwick.
And a 31.7 for Benjamin Dahlia. He was absolutely mobbed in the middle sector. While this is all going on, this has been very lively as well. Brody Steen's processed both Dave Nenadic and Brendan Ross, and now Steen is out ahead in 6th. These guys are only 7 seconds ahead of Zach Baker. We might be able to see him in the tail of one of these shots, perhaps. And we'll just swap back to these guys because Luke Rosella got a wheel off the edge of the circuit at turn 6 and was almost a bit vulnerable for a moment, but looks like he has managed to recover some sensibility. Oh, that was what they were waiting for, it looked like.
Yeah, so coming up to about 3rd race distance, and I guess their tyres must be starting to maybe get a little bit worn, maybe, or just they're starting to get a little bit ragged in their driving. They can't maintain that perfection for forever. And it got a little bit hairy for a couple of laps there for a couple of the drivers. And it has allowed Corey Preston Corey Preston, I say
Corey
once again,
McFarlane, yeah.
do apologise to both Corys, as I think Corey may have actually
come into the pit.
He is down in 5th place. Yeah, so
he's in the pits. Yep.
He is the first of our pit callers, so does not want to lose track position. He dives in very, very early on lap 19 for his first pit stop. So Colin Warwick inherits the lead of the race.
And we've also got one of the Ultimate 9 cars. I think that is Lewis Wedding as well in the pits. Brendan Ross.
It is Brendan Ross, yep. So
I'll let our third commentator, Stairs, be the one to marshal all the pit strategy for us tonight. Then I think that will work nicely.
and it means we don't have to concentrate on it, so that's excellent for all involved. As we watch this leading quartet continuing, they've started to stretch out just a little bit from one another. As I say that, Luke Rosella gets very close to the back of Colin Warwick, but lots and lots of smoke there coming from Benjamin Dahlia's car, but they're no longer nuts to butts. They're more, nuts in vicinity of butts. There's enough room to waft some sweat between these particular testes. As they go through the last corner, you can see there is plenty of space in between those cars. Although that can evaporate in mere moments. None of our top 4 decide to pit on this particular occasion.
We'll watch them swing their way through turn 1 and fire into the braking zone of turn 2. It is Warwick, Rosella, Dahlia, and Stenberg.
So Corey's come out down in 13th place, so that is a long way to drop through your pit stops. So if anyone decides to go quite a bit longer, then they'll have some traffic to deal with, making their way back up through the field. But these 4 don't seem to be planning to come in anytime soon. You would expect maybe Benjamin Dahlia and Kurt Stenberg to think they should dive in and try to get an undercut. They're quite close.
They're quite content at the moment there as well. And remember, you've got a full fuel tank to take at each of these pit stops effectively. So the pit stops are going to be quite a lengthy one. We've got a few more pit callers now. Looks like on our other screen, Dave Nenadich, RSM Latino, Steve Warwick, Dane Liccardo, and Ben Hall, who's
they're having to share a pit box by the looks of it.
Very cozy with Dane Liccardo. So that's certainly a complicating factor there.
Yeah, it looks like he wasn't actually able to squeeze into the side of the pit box, so that's a shame for Ben Hall, because that means that he'll have to wait until Dane Liccardo's done. These 4 come around the last corner. Will any of them dive in? Looks like Colin Warwick's... Colin Warwick had a little jink towards it, and then Luke Rosella, and then Benjamin Dahlia, and they went, no, actually, never mind.
They're all playing a little bit of mind games there, a little bit of phasing each other out, faking each other out. In fact, have a look at this. Dave Nenadich come out of the pits immediately ahead of Brendan Ross, so they resume their sparring match from earlier.
Ding, ding. Round 2.
Indeed.
Benjamin Dahlia. That was... sorry, not Benjamin Dahlia. Brendan Ross. That was a little bit ambitious there. Throwing himself down the inside and then deciding against it. Top 4 continue as they were.
And Ben will pick up a drive-through penalty, and that will be most likely for pit lane speeding.
Yeah, so that must probably a little bit frustrated at missing his pit box, or his pit box being occupied by Dane Liccardo and having to wait. So he maybe got on the throttle a little bit too early. That is a shame for him. Currently last on track, and obviously a drive-through penalty is not going to assist that as they go through, as they're catching up to one of the back markers.
That is Dane Liccardo. That's he's completely sidestepped a lot of them, so well done, Dane.
Well done, Dane. Corey up to 8th place at the moment.
7th place, in fact.
Oh, yes. So he's just taken that from Lewis Wedding.
Who's just come into the pits.
Very well done.
And in fact, Corey set the fastest lap of the race last lap around. It was a 29.3 as all 4 of them dive into the pits this time around.
That looked like a late decision from Colin Warwick, just swinging across the track.
Oh, look at how close they all got as they came to the line. I wonder if someone's just been tipped over the line on the pit entry. As it looks like we've got another D and F. We'll see if we can just find what happened to Ben Hall.
Maybe just frustration after receiving that drive-through penalty. That's a damn shame, though, for him to DNF out of the race. Luckily, none of these top 4 share a pit box. I was a little bit worried about that, thinking Luke Rosella and Colin Warwick may have. But they, especially after the dramas we had last time out. But here is at the moment, we would assume still in provisional race lead. He's coming around the last corner. The top 4 don't look like they've started moving
They've
just
just started
yet.
moving now.
There they are. So they have just begun moving from the pit lane.
And we'll see whether or not we see them on the exit in a moment. And Corey's gone through. There he is. And look at the gap. Look at the gap that he's built over that undercut. It's massive. It's Dahlia from Warwick this time. So Dahlia actually jumped all 4 of them in the pits there.
Yeah.
So a well done pit cycle for Benjamin Dahlia.
Yeah, with Luke Rosella still ahead of Kurt Stenberg. So Kurt Stenberg not managing to make any positions during the pit stops. That's a little bit frustrating for him. But that gap at the front, most importantly, well, not Brody Steen and Zach Baker, who are currently still in the lead, but Corey now 7 seconds over Benjamin Dahlia. So that gap has grown through the pit stops, probably because of these 4 being too occupied fighting each other while Corey Preston was out there banging in some hot laps.
Well, it would be the undercut as well, jumping onto some new tyres and getting those 3 or 4 laps in clean air. He was the first one to pit at the end of lap 19. So it looks like the undercut is something that's going to be very effective. Something else that we should keep track of is these 2 in the pits. Now Brody Steen and Zach Baker coming in for their first pit stop. They've run a little longer than everyone else. So it'll be interesting to see how that pans out for them later on. But this will be now the effective lead of the race for this quartet. Or rather, not for this quartet, but for this man, Corey McFarlane, who will take them through and set the fastest lap to boot as well, a 29.0. So still quite a ways to go to get to that 26.2 for the overall lap record. But certainly laying down the hammer for these guys, as there's a puff of dust ahead of this group. Not sure what the cause of that is, but Colin Warwick doesn't matter. Colin Warwick doesn't mind. Sorry, Colin.
That's great for his self-esteem.
That doesn't matter.
Oh no, as a drive-through penalty for Brody Steen, presumably for speeding in the pit lane once again. So that is a damn shame for his scrap that he was having.
Well worked. What a move that was.
That's his second excellent move he's had down into turn 4. That was fantastic.
And Rosella's going to come with him as well.
Once again. I'm pretty sure this is almost exactly what happened the last time when Luke Rosella managed to sneak through. Benjamin Dahlia's managed to hold on to it this time, though. No joy for you, Mr. Luke Rosella. And Kurt Stenberg still just waiting. I suppose as long as he finishes ahead of Zach Baker, he is the champion for Season 3 of ASC. So he's probably not going to take any risks. He wants to just stay safe.
I don't know. This is Kurt Stenberg we are talking about.
That's very true. Yeah. But you know, he's probably happy for these 3 to take each other out at this stage, because they seem to be getting closer and closer each time they come together in a battle.
This is true. And especially if they're starting to pull moves like Colin Warwick just did on Benjamin Dahlia. Corey sets another fastest lap, this time into the 28s, a 28.9. That lap record is coming down in droves at the moment. And these guys, in comparison, last lap for Luke Rosella, 29.5. So they're really slowing each other up as they are splitting into their own battles now. Colin Warwick holding off Benjamin Dahlia. Oh, he runs very wide. Benjamin Dahlia's going to slide through. Luke Rosella's going to get through as well, is he? We're going to go side by side into turn 3. Rosella on the high side. Can he hold it around there as they come through turn 4 now?
Colin Warwick, we know, is very good into turn 4 with his late braking. Luke Rosella, very brave, trying to hang it on around the outside into turn 5. He has the inside and manages to hold on to that position. Colin Warwick trying to swap it up the inside, coming up into the left-hander of turn 6. Will he be late on the brakes? He is. Oh, that was always going to end in tears. There's a bit of a bump as another drive-through penalty for Brody Steen. That's a rip as they go through turn 7. And it looks as if Colin Warwick has lost those 2 positions. That is a shame for Colin Warwick. Down into 4th place. He started this lap in 2nd. That is a big swing.
And it was all because of that deep braking moment at turn 2 that we just managed to catch. In fact, Warren's going very defensive, and he's let Kurt Stenberg by. That's a very confusing.
Maybe it looked like he maybe it was he did have a bit of contact going through turn 6, I think it was, with Luke Rosella and Kurt Stenberg. So maybe he's just sort of self-penalized himself a bit there. Not entirely sure. He is a very fair driver, we know, so I wouldn't be surprised as Benjamin Dahlia actually sets the fastest lap. I was going to say the hottest lap, but I guess that's accurate, with a 28.7.
It looks like finally getting a bit of breathing room for Benjamin Dahlia. He's got about a second behind him now, and he's trying to just found a little bit of pace. So what we'll try and tee up as everyone is in this second stint is we'll try and get a bit of a sense as Zach Baker now sets the fastest lap. This is more like it from the challenger. A 28.6. He's finding some pace. Let's see if we can find where Zach Baker is out on circuit.
He might have left it a little bit late. He's 20 seconds behind Kurt Stenberg at the moment, 22 seconds even. So he's got quite a bit of a ways to catch up to try to take that lead position away from Kurt Stenberg in the championship. Well, not take the lead, but take the fight on into Bathurst 1000 in December. At the moment, he is sitting down in 8th place, 4 positions down from where he started. So that's an improvement on 12th, where he was at one stage. It's still not where he'd want to be.
But there's still quite a fair way to go. We've just been given a little bit of a point from our stairs just sitting behind us here. The first sector times for the top 5 runners: 27.8, 27.9, 27.9, 27.8, 27.8. And it goes on into sector 2 as well. 36-1, 36 flat, 36 flat, 36 flat, 36 flat. They are metronomic at this stage. It's now Kurt Stenberg who has the fastest lap of the race, a 28.4. So the pace is really hotting up here in the last round of the Sydney swing. And it is all happening in this front pack of cars. In fact, on that last lap, the lap record was held by Corey McFarlane, Benjamin Daly, Luke Rosella, then Kurt Stenberg. And it's going to be taken by Zach Baker, who comes across the line, and he with a purple Sector 1 and Sector 2, unless we missed that he had a slow Sector 3. What was his Sector 3 time? We're not sure just yet. It's a 28.47, so just outside that time. So the pace is really hotting up at the moment. In fact, Baker has almost latched onto the rear of David Enidich and Brendan Ross.
You would think that his teammate David Enidich will move over for him, but I'm not sure how much they're worrying about the championship as it was. You'd think David would want to help Zach along as much as he can. Sydney Swing sounds like a much worse version of a Singapore Sling like cocktail. Like it sounds like, it'd be like Bundaberg served in a boot, like with some yellow like rainwater ice or something. Not something appetizing anyway. As we watch Corey swing through the first corner. This is the gap.
Yes, indeed. So there's Corey Preston, Corey McFarlane, rather. Benjamin Dahlia, Luke Rosella, Kurt Stenberg, and Colin Warwick. And then Daylight down to the next car on track. So we'll just track this battle between Rosella and Stenberg until we see the next car, which will be... touch between Rosella and Stenberg.
touch. Indeed, as we just see on our other screen, the rest of the field going through. So it's about a 20-second gap between the top 5 and the next battle, which is Brendan Ross and the 2 ZB cars.
And it's now Zach Baker ahead of David Nenadich now, so that move's been made. Dane Liccardo is now is in 9th place rather, as we come back to this battle.
So Luke Rosella nearly losing that position to Kurt Stenberg through the hairpin, as we saw. So he's falling away from Benjamin Dahlia, who seems to be starting to put a little bit of pressure on Corey Preston, if that's possible, from 6th. Corey McFarlane, my goodness.
It's an endemic.
I didn't even think of Corey Preston before you mentioned him early. What have you infected me with?
I'm sorry.
It's fine.
So sorry.
It's fine. So Benjamin Dahlia is closing in on Corey McFarlane very, very slightly, putting in some hot laps. Still 6 seconds adrift, but he's showing that he does have the pace. So if there's a safety car or something to bunch these guys back up, Benjamin Dahlia might have the opportunity, but it would take an almighty drive from here to catch up those 6 seconds. Maybe an undercut with the second set of pit stops, which we imagine is going to happen at some stage during this race.
This is another battle pack on the tail end of the top 10. It is Steve Warwick, Lewis Wedding, and Cameron Parrott, I believe.
Yes, indeed.
So that these guys are fighting for the tail end of the minors, and Brody Steen is a further 10 seconds behind this battle, with RSM Latino just off the back. Oh, you can just see him in the edge of the shot there. So it's intrigue up and down the field. We'll very shortly see a battle between Brendan Ross and Zach Baker, who's still setting in some electric lap times at 29 flat to be the fastest man on track last lap around. Nope, there was a bunch of 28s that I completely missed. But still quite an impressive pace from Zach Baker in his return.
It's hard to keep across it, considering how many of these guys are putting in absolutely blistering lap times.
Indeed.
And also very similar. As you said, we had 4 drivers sharing the fastest lap on one lap earlier on, which is a bit of a feat. Kurt Stenberg, as you can see, latching onto the back of Luke Rosella coming into this last sector. So he's hoping for a decent run through this last corner to get a good slipstream all the way down into turn 1. As you can see Benjamin Daly just stretching out a little bit ahead there.
And interesting on that note, Madbird, if you have a look at the lap times, Corey McFarlane is sitting very firmly in the 29s, the 29.3, whereas this group is firmly in the 28s, 28.7, 28.8, 28.9. So these guys, 28.8 from Rosella this time around. So these guys are certainly starting to reel in McFarlane out front. Maybe that McFarlane's having to conserve quite a bit more considering his earlier pit stop.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking. He got 6 seconds to burn, so he does have a bit of space if he wants to do a bit of lift and coast, save a little bit of fuel. He did pit the first of everybody.
On lap 19.
About 3 laps. He's about 4 laps ahead of these 4 in terms of pit strategy. So 4 laps older tyres and 4 laps less fuel compared to these lot.
So that's a price that will have to be paid back later on in the race. We are getting close-ish to half distance. We are on lap 28. This is, of course, a 64-lap race. So some quick maths tells us that half distance is 32 laps.
Quick maths.
Quick maths, ladies and gentlemen.
Just as Big Shaq, the one and only, would pronounce, man is not hot, but Sydney Motorsport Park certainly is tonight. That was the oddest. That was the oddest cut I've ever done in my entire life. As we watch Brendan Ross now well and truly in the grips of Zach Baker and driving, as you say, like Brendan Ross, a little bit all over the place, and that will not be helping his tyres out. And Zach Baker looking like he's shaping up an overtake down the inside. And indeed, Brendan Ross just bowls it wide at the downhill hairpin. Made that as easy as possible for Zach Baker, which I'm sure Zach will be happy about. Brendan Ross probably less so.
Yeah, indeed. Not exactly the nicest way to give up a position by just bowling a wide and allowing the driver that you're trying to hold behind you just a free pass through. But I'm fairly certain that Baker will continue on his merry way, and that'll allow him to start to make inroads into the 22-second gap between himself and Colin Warwick.
It's very significant. I suppose if he's not in a battle, he's in totally clear air ahead of him. He might be able to just put his head down and set some blistering lap times. But 22 seconds seems like a very big ask to overcome in 34 laps.
What seems to be a slightly smaller ask at the moment is this gap between Corey McFarlane and Benjamin Dahlia, now down below 4 seconds. Below 5 seconds for the first time since the pit stop. Now, remind me, Madbird, what was the gap that over these battling group of 4 after the pit stop? Do you recall?
About 7 seconds he came out ahead. Oh, well, once the pit stops all shook out, it was about 7 seconds for second place man Colin Warwick it was at that stage. And it is now Benjamin Dahlia, and it is now under 5 seconds, as you said. So he is starting to drop back towards them. I do wonder if it is, as you see, again, last lap was a 29.8. That lap just then was a 29.5. So he's well and truly down on his best lap times. I wonder how much of this is possibly fuel saving. As we say, he did pit 4 laps earlier.
He may be driving to a number. He may be driving to try and hit a 29.5 or something like that. But the pace is beginning to slip away. 29.5 last lap around, priced at 29.8. So it's not quite as consistent as we've seen from the leading driver.
Just heard a chair squeak. I almost said Preston once again. My goodness, it's Benjamin Dahlia, as we see, still in second place.
Call him Corey.
We just call him Corey. That's what his name is in Automobilista. We'll just call him Corey. We've got Benjamin Dahlia in the sister race on Oz team. Imagine at the start of the season, he probably wasn't expecting to be in the sister race on Oz team and to be ahead of the only other race on Oz car in this race, who's down in 14th place. Brody Steen with those 2 drive-through penalties absolutely crawled his race. 1 minute and 24 seconds behind the lead. So very, very much doubt we'll be seeing him make a play for the podium in this particular race. But which is a shame for him. But, win last time out, he can't be too upset.
I mean, you still can be.
That's very true.
I'd be upset with 2 drive-throughs in the same race.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'd be ropeable regardless of whether I won last week. So It's a damn shame for Brody. Currently last, bar the 2 DNFs. So not probably what you want to say, what you want to hear. Brody Steen.
Another half a second that lap around, a 29.7 versus a 29.2. So the gap is coming down in not insignificant chunks. So Dahlia is really putting the pressure on here, and he's bringing Luke Rosella with him. Rosella seems to have just been able to keep up with Dahlia's pace. Kurt Stenberg just a little bit behind that, but Colin Warwick has dropped off the back of this group just ever so slightly.
And incredibly, the gap to Zach Baker behind is still 22 seconds. So they're all gaining on the leader, but they're all gaining on the leader at the exact same rate, it appears, because that gap has not changed at all. Benjamin Dahlia is the one making inroads, 4.3 seconds at the moment. See if that improves by the end of this lap, because as you say, last lap, half a second to the better was Benjamin Dahlia, and it's just dipped under 4 seconds for the first time. So
that's coming down in more significant chunks now.
It is, absolutely. So we will see what the lap times are as they come across the line in just a few moments.
And Corey's going to have to hold on for quite a little while. If he tries to do another 19 lap stint, that'll take him to lap 38. That will still require him to do 24 laps in the last second of the last section of the race.
So as we see, Benjamin Dahlia with a 129.4 and Corey with a 129.7. So just 0.3 to the better that time around, but still chipping away at that lead, which, as we said, was 7 seconds when they came out of the pits.
It was actually a 30.2, so that's still 0.7 per second. It just flicked over now on our timing screen, which is a little bit delayed, but it's certainly coming down. I'd be a little nervous if I was Corey Preston at this stage, because it's not
equalising, is it?
No, it's not. It's going further in the other direction.
Oh, a tiny bit of opposite lock there for Benjamin Dahlia. Tiny bit of oppo.
A bit of oppo.
But he manages to hold on to it, and and a tiny bit of grass on the exit, or dirt more likely, coming out of turn 6 as we see Corey Preston.
So let's just see if we can get a bit of
even.
It is absolutely endemic. Let's see if we can get a bit of a read on where Corey's losing time. Very equal in the first sector, 28.2 versus 28.2 versus 28.2 versus 28.1 for Kurt Stenberg. Wow, really pulling out the stops there is Kurt. Middle sector we'll see in just a moment, hopefully, if it gets its act together. And the gap visually, it's so much smaller. 36.4 in the middle sector versus 36.5. Actually, Corey's done well that time around. Responded a bit, a 29.7 overall, and we'll see a 29.7 for Benjamin Dahlia. So it's actually beginning a response here for Corey McFarlane. So maybe he is just decided that now, okay, the gap's halved, so it's going to be something that he has to actually take a bit of a notice of. We've got Cameron Parrott in the pits, and then this gaggle of cars has all come together. Steve Warwick, Lewis Wedding, RSM Latino, and Brody Steen. Now this is for position, and you may see just in the tail of shot occasionally the roof of Corey McFarlane. Oh, RSM Latino!
That was a big moment for RSM Latino with Brody Steen right behind him. So Brody Steen still with his eyes on the prize, trying to get as many positions as he can. There is Corey Preston just behind Corey McFarlane.
Just call him Corey.
There is Corey right behind them as they go through the downhill hairpin side by side down towards the last corner. Corey is going to have to lap these cars at some stage unless they pull into the pits very soon. Speaking of pits, that pit from Cameron Parrott seems like a very odd time. That is exactly splitting the race in half, which I can't imagine he can get to the end from here.
No, I certainly don't think so. It would be quite a stint. And
that's his first stop.
Wow. Okay, so he is trying to do the one-stop strategy. He's fallen a lap behind everyone he's currently racing against, so it might not be the optimal strategy, but that's still very impressive, I've got to say.
That is a long way to eke out that tank of fuel, as we see Brendan Ross. Lewis Wedding and
Steve Warwick
having a good old tussle through turn 2. And Steve Warwick up a position from his start in 10th place. So very well done from Steve.
Big dive from Lewis.
He sneaks his nose up the inside, but Steve's an old hand at this, manages to hold on to it.
And Brody Steen's going to buy into it as well. Check that out. Brody Steen now on the inside as they head in towards turn 6. Doesn't quite have the run to make it happen. But look at that lurking figure in the background of Corey McFarlane. It's all going to get very complex very quickly.
Yeah, these four have come together in... Oh, there's a little bit of chin music, but looks of it on Brody Steen on this wedding.
Big dive from Steen. He gets that move done.
So these four have all come together to make this battle a lot more tense and interesting. Just as Corey has arrived at them, they are now getting the blue flags. So he will be hoping that they get out of the way down the pit straight, I suppose, would be the easiest opportunity. But they are all worrying about their own race. And my goodness, isn't it close for those last positions?
2.5 seconds now, the gap to the lead. 2.5 seconds. Last lap around a 30.9 versus 29.7. And if this continues down the main straight, the headlights are ablaze for Corey McFarlane. This continues into turn 1, 2, and 3. It could be even shorter, the gap, as they come through. It's now 35 laps done. We're over half race distance. This is all very complicated. They fan out to go into turn 2. Lewis Wedding way out, breaks himself. He's gone wide.
I think he might have been trying to let Corey through in the least painful way. Steve Warwick also gets out of the way. Brody Steen has come out of this the best, getting all of those positions. Corey's lights still ablaze as he flies through and into and takes those positions, laps those cars.
But it certainly hurt the lap time. 2 seconds now, the gap to Benjamin Dahlia. You can see him just in the back of shot there. It's very, very close as the leaders are starting to come through these back markers. Here is Benjamin Dahlia. He's now got the trouble of making his way through this pack as they come over Corporate Hill and into the hairpin. I think,
sorry, you go ahead.
This is going to be a more difficult prospect for Dahlia. It might actually work out in Corey's favour as they go through the hairpin. Rosella's going to try and dive, make that position too. He does.
I was just going to say, that first sector, Corey was 6/10 slower than he was on the previous lap, going through those back markers through the first sector. So that will help Benjamin out a lot if he can make these possessions quickly.
Oh, they're going to balk him right on the point of throttle application. Brendan Ross gets out the way. Steve Warwick is going to pull to the inside. It was just at the throttle application point, just where Dahlia was wanting to bring up the pace. He got balked there. So Steve Warwick, I think, dropped into the pits. But that gap now is 2.5 seconds again. And I'm interested to see the time loss in that final sector because I think that'll be quite telling.
So 2.5 seconds for Benjamin Dahlia to catch up as we're just seeing the last sectors there for them. So it was a 25.0 for Corey.
25.3.
Yeah.
So not quite as bad as we were expecting, but still a significant hit to the chasing pack.
So Steve Warwick just coming out of the pits, so he's taken his second pit stop. We're still waiting for any of our top 5 to dive in. The gap now 20 seconds to Zach Baker. I'm going to keep harping on about this.
And here is Zach Baker.
Because he is technically in with a shot. If he can get ahead of Kurt Stenberg, it's a remote possibility, I'll admit. But nevertheless, Benjamin Dahlia currently sitting in the best opportunity. If he can manage to connive Luke Rosella into crashing Kurt Stenberg out, in with an opportunity to make it to carry it on to the next race.
And Kurt Stenberg and Luke Rosella were partners in the ASR Enduro Cup for Supercars, so they are very good friends. So I wonder if that would test the friendship somewhat.
Probably a little bit. Whoa, as we see a little bit of a moment there for Benjamin Dahlia through the last corner, manages to hold on to it, and that gap now down to 2.2 seconds. So coming down.
It stabilized a little bit on that last lap. I think everyone was just dealing with the ramifications of getting through the traffic there. We'll see the lap times 29.7 for Benjamin Dahlia, and we'll waiting with bated breath to see on our timing screens the lap time for Corey McFarlane. Sincere apologies, Corey, when you watch that back. It was 29.9, so 2/10, but it is still coming down. We saw Corey make his pit stop on lap 19. So if my maths is correct, we're on lap 38 right now. That would mean that he is due for another pit stop this lap, assuming that the stints are exactly the same length. Of course, if he does that, though, he'll have to do a monster 24-lap stint to get to the end of the race, or 26-lap stint.
That'd be a lot of fuel saving. Yeah, I can only imagine he must have been saving some fuel while he had that. He had all that breathing space, 7 seconds to eat up. and he must have been doing a little bit of lift and coast, because he doesn't look like he's coming in at this stage. Hard to tell, of course, when they're not at the pit entry. But
Yeah.
Benjamin Dahlia, nevertheless, has been absolutely blistering in this second stint, with all of his lap times just chipping away at that lead regardless, and dragging himself ever closer to the lead of this race. Corey just coming onto the start-finish straight there, and he looks like he might actually be going in.
Pits. Interesting, very, very interesting. So that's our race leader into the pits. We did call it. We did say that it would be on time if he wanted to come in, but that's going to be a long final stint. Benjamin Dahlia inherits the lead here ahead of Luke Rosella, Kurt Stenberg, Colin Warwick, and possibly even Zach Baker.
So what that says to me is that Benjamin Dahlia, with both of them going flat out, Benjamin Dahlia was faster than Corey, which means that with Corey needing to do quite a bit of fuel saving, we expect, in the third stint, that is going to help Benjamin Dahlia out immensely, considering that he seems to be on it with the pace, and he's going to have less. He's going to have less laps to complete on his last tank of fuel, assuming that they follow the tradition from the first time around and pit around lap 42, make it a 22-lap final stint.
So it's the even tyre strategy, making all the stints exactly the same length, and seeing whether or not you can make that work out for you. I'm surprised that no one's, well, I mean, besides Cameron Parrott, of course, tried to run a bit longer and trying to extend those earlier stints to try and run a short stint at the end of the race and try and make use of those good tyres. Because it seems to me, Madbird, that the good tyres are exactly what you want to be on when you've got them. Well, Corey's come out of the pits now, and remember when he made the undercut happen, he was setting a string of fast laps, string of purple sectors, taking the fastest lap of the race for a period of time before the tyres started to dip away. So I wonder if he's trying this again, trying to get one or two very quick laps in to try and build a bit of a buffer, and then basically shutting off the tap and not coasting, but managing it to the end of the race.
Yeah, I can imagine that's what he is hoping to do, but that seems like a lot of management when he's only managed 19 lap stints thus far. To do 7 laps more than that with enough pace to hold on to that lead, we're going to have to wait and see what happens. It's all very exciting. I will say Zach Baker and Brody Steen both went pretty long with their first stints, but of course with Brody Steen, that hasn't worked out because he had his 2 drive-through penalties. But Zach Baker, I think, went a couple of laps longer than the leading quartet. So we'll have to wait and see when he comes in. But still, at the moment, 15 seconds now adrift of fourth place man.
Big dive in for Benjamin Dahlia there at the hairpin. So Zach Baker and Brody Steen were the last of the sort of front-running drivers to pit, and they came in on lap 22. So they were 1 lap behind this lead group. So even then, 22, 44, 66, they're still not... they're comfortable. They'd be comfortable to get home, but it's still not... They haven't got
not a
heaps
huge
in the tank.
advantage,
Yeah,
is
exactly.
it? No.
And in fact, we have a few drivers in the pits, Dane Liccardo and David Nenadich. Lewis Wedding and... this is a bit of fun. Lewis Wedding and Brendan Ross right next to each other on track, the pair of Ultimate 9 racing machines.
Look like Lewis doing a bit of weaving on the straight, breaking that slipstream.
Oh, and he needs to as well, because Ross is right up his rear bumper. They're going to go side by side through turn 2.
I have a feeling that Ross has pitted a second time, whereas Lewis hasn't, which would explain this massive... he actually pit on lap 37, so this is for position, but Lewis has not yet pit for the second time. So currently just causing a bit of strife for his teammate, which I'm sure Brendan will appreciate.
I will just ask Stairs to check that number for us, because Wedding was one of the first to pit the first time around. He pit the same lap as Corey McFarlane. So I wonder if they both actually pit, and this is their gap on track. But that would mean that Ross has dropped quite a fair bit of time in comparison, because he was adjacent to David Nenadich and Zach Baker for a little bit of time. So this is an interesting battle between the teammates. and they will continue this on until either a pit stop or the end of the race, hopefully.
Yeah, so Lewis last pit on lap 20, so we're now 20 laps on from that. So by that form, he should be peeling off into the pits now. As his teammate blocks the pit entry, it must be a little bit of bumping. And decides not to as they weave themselves down. This is what is happening between these Ultimate 9 races. They're just having their own fun out there doing some formation flying.
Formation something.
Yeah, that's a good point. Not sure it's flying. Formation falling. Benjamin Dahlia out in the lead still by 0.4 of a second, and going strong on lap 41. So, looking to extend a bit further maybe.
Just quickly having a look at Zach Baker. Look at that last lap time, a 1:32.6. He's really struggling at the moment. Very slow first and middle sector for Zach Baker. So I wonder if this is the tyres falling off a cliff or he made a mistake. Looks very taily in the rear of the car. Looks very unhappy with the throttle application. So maybe those rear tyres are crying enough for ZB in the ZB racing machine.
Maybe. I was going to say earlier, Zach was actually within 15 seconds of next place man Colin Warwick, and that's ballooned back out to 22 seconds again. So all that good work gone to waste, unfortunately, for Zach Baker, as we see our leading trio as they were.
Just missed on the other screen. Zach Baker have a really hairy moment at turn 6, but this is interesting now. These front three have compressed, and there. Dahlia comes in. Rosella and Stenberg stay out.
So yeah, Luke Rosella was covering it. If Benjamin Dahlia ducked out, he probably would not have continued on. Last lap, Benjamin Dahlia was a good 1 second, 0.8 of a second faster than Corey, and that's after Corey is pit. So Corey must be doing some fuel saving.
Yeah, indeed. Oh, in fact, we just quickly see Colin Warwick, who's run a boulder wide at turn 2. He had a very, very slow last lap around, did Colin Warwick, a 31.5. So he is struggling on those tyres. But we'll come back to this battle. This is now for the current lead of the race. Luke Rosella and Kurt Stenberg here. Very, very tight. Very good friends, they are. But at the moment, on track, it's everything to play for.
Yeah, they're not teammates in this particular race, so Kurt Stenberg looking to relieve Luke Rosella of that provisional lead. Goes very, very wide through turn 7. Takes all the real estate available to him, and Luke Rosella managing to hold on to it, as we see Benjamin Dahlia just coming out of the pits.
Ahead, and there's Corey McFarlane. It's going to be tight coming into turn 2. McFarlane's going to whip around, but that gap, remember, was 7 seconds at the end of the first pit stop, was 2.5 seconds when Corey took his last pit, but now have a look at that. This is for the effective lead of the race, ladies and gentlemen, and it is a very close run thing. We have 22 laps to go, and both Luke Rosella and Kurt Stenberg in the pits. I would expect to see this shot in a moment. We'll just hold that shot there. There comes Colin Warwick as well, and he will come into the pits as well. So they are all in on this lap, the end of lap 43, but this is where the intrigue is at the minute.
Oh, Brody, I thought Benjamin Dahlia was about to fly into the back of Corey, but managed to pull it up just in time.
A bit of grass on the entry to turn 7 from Benjamin Dahlia. He's really on the ragged edge of this Commodore as he tries to find a way to take the lead of the race here, the effective lead of the race, rather.
I think...
dives to the inside and takes it.
And Corey did not fight that at all, so Corey must be doing some mega fuel saving to try to get to the end of this race. He made that almost embarrassingly easy for Benjamin Dahlia to swoop around the outside and take that position.
But have a look now. This is Luke Rosella and Kurt Stenberg coming out of the pits, and there in the background is Benjamin Dahlia and Corey McFarlane. They're gonna come out cleanly ahead.
This is going to be very... Yeah, so Kurt Stenberg may be going to be close to these two as they come down towards turn 1. No, Kurt Stenberg
they're ahead. They're ahead.
So how has this happened? So the overcut has actually helped out Luke Rosella and Kurt Stenberg. Maybe Benjamin Dahlia and Corey put in too much petrol. Fuel. I don't know why I said petrol in particular. Luke Rosella and Kurt Stenberg may be taking lighter loads.
Dahlia's all over the rear of Stenberg, though. This is tight at the moment. Remember, Dahlia has a lap under his belt on these tyres. Nice warm tyres versus Stenberg, who's just come out of the pits. Dali's got to pounce now while the iron's hot.
Well, the tyres indeed are hot as they fly down towards turn 7 around Corporate Hill and down into the downhill hairpin. And he might have shot his wad as it was. Benjamin Dahlia unable to get that position done on Kurt Stenberg. He's going to have to try to get it done down the start-finish straight as Corey goes very wide behind them.
Corey looks like he's struggling now.
He's down into 4th place now, and Colin Warwick 6 seconds behind him. So Corey going from a dominant lead of this race down into 4th place. That is a damn shame for him, but with some interesting strategy calls. Luke Rosella, though, a second and a half out in the lead.
And up 14 places. Remember, we didn't see a lap from him in qualifying. He has monsters his way through the field, and he holds a second and a half lead over Kurt Stenberg. And yeah, the overcut seemed to be the strategy that worked. I wonder what has happened to allow both Stenberg and Rosella the opportunity. Maybe they were just conserving a lot more behind Dahlia and were able to save a bit more fuel than Dahlia and put a bit less in for this last stint.
Well, Dahlia and Corey were sort of tussling on that outlap. So they might have taken a little bit of time out of each other, defending and attacking. And they were pretty close to these two, so maybe that was enough. In addition to just a monster in-lap from Luke Rosella and Kurt Stenberg, they looked like they were doing it right to the line. And in the end, it has resulted in them in 1st and 2nd in this race. So Kurt Stenberg, slowly catchy monkey, has managed to get himself up into the podium positions when for most of this race he's been languishing down in 4th and 5th.
Just a quick sidebar as well. Colin Warwick, Zach Baker through the pits that last lap around, as was Brendan Ross and Brody Steen. And David Nenadic, question mark? No, he came in quite a fair bit earlier, and he looks to be really struggling on this set of tyres at the minute. So he's currently down in 10th place. Luke Rosella, just as a side, set the fastest middle sector. No, Kurt Stenberg set the fastest middle sector. Luke Rosella sets the fastest lap of the race now, 28.2. So it doesn't look like we're going to see the lap record of the 26.285 by Dane Warren bettered, but certainly a fast finish to this race. So we've ticked over the 70-minute mark, Madbird. It's gone like that.
It has gone very, very quickly. We're on lap 46 of 64, which is a pleasing mirrored number. I
believe they're called palindromes.
Do you call it that with a number? Palindrome is like Glenelg.
This is true, but also numbers are the same.
Oh, very good. Well, there you go then. It is a palindromic number compared to our number of laps, total number of laps. 1.6 seconds the gap between Kurt Stenberg and Luke Rosella as we continue on. Brendan Ross losing a position to Dane Liccardo down in 7th by the looks of it.
Wow, Brendan Loss.
Brendan Loss, almost like how Colin Warwick doesn't matter.
Here's a replay of that move, by the way. So actually they're in quite a tussle. So Rossi trying to go around the outside into turn 1. Oh, that's brave. That's very, very brave.
Tried to hang it on around the outside, and Dane Liccardo very, very, very well done there to keep it to the inside and just stably take that position, or hold on to that position even.
Oh, and a bit of a sideways moment there for Rossi as well on the exit. So this is what that battle looks like now. And they are engaged in a very tight battle over 7th and 8th place at this stage of the race.
Another fastest lap for Luke Rosella, a 128.1, so well and truly the class of the field at the moment. That's 2 fastest laps in a row for him.
Oh, and have a look at this as well. Corey on the outside, Colin Warwick on the inside. That's another position lost for Corey, who has led the majority of this race, led from the off, and is now on lap 46, down in 5th place.
Well, we're showing the difference between a sprint race and a sort of endurance race. Corey was absolutely blistering last time out in all 3 races that we had in Sydney 2. But those were obviously a lot shorter with 1 compulsory pit stop, so the strategy was basically equalised. Whereas here, everyone else probably conserved a little bit of extra fuel, didn't drive quite as quickly as they could have, and saved a bit of extra fuel, could pit a little bit later, whereas Corey had to pit at the first opportunity and has wound up having to save a lot of fuel in this last stint.
So he is losing quite a fair bit of time at the minute, but someone who is making hay while the sun shines is Luke Rosella, another fastest first sector. Well, not quite the fastest, but fastest of anyone out on track at the moment. A very fast middle sector, and I would not be surprised to see this grace another fastest lap. He missed it by a 10th. Kurt Stenberg is keeping him honest, though. The gap is only a second and a half, and Stenberg is matching that pace, actually. A 28.1 versus 28.2 last lap around, and a purple middle sector for Kurt Stenberg. We'll get the lap time in just a moment, and it is a 28.2 plays a 28.1. So it's not quite over yet. Stenberg is really, he's wants to go out with an absolute bang here, and he's going to give us some, certainly a bang for our buck.
Absolutely a bang for our buck, as our sleuthing Stairs has pulled out his magnifying glass and shed some light on the mystery of how this huge swap round has happened. Kurt Stenberg was 0.9 of a second faster than Benjamin Dahlia through the pit lane. So, and Rosella was 2.35 seconds faster than Benjamin Dahlia through the pit lane. So that is a massive difference in the pits. So I don't know if Benjamin Dahlia has just massively overfueled, or if Luke Rosella and Kurt Stenberg have underfueled and are going to have to save later on in the race. But regardless, that is a huge discrepancy through the pits.
Well, that is the intrigue of this form of racing, isn't it, Madbird? We've got a quarter of the race still to go, 48 laps completed once Rosella crosses the line. We'll see him cross the line in just a moment, and another 16 to go.
Yeah, so we're closing in. Does not get another fastest lap, and neither does Kurt Stenberg. So,
oh, they've dropped off at 28.3.
Oh, pathetic, dawdling as they go through turn 1 on lap 49 of 64. So, where are we? Zach Baker, I'm going to keep going.
You're gonna keep
16 seconds behind Corey. He might actually get that at this rate, because Corey is dropping he's dropping a lot of speed, as you would expect. He's now 6 seconds behind Colin Warwick.
A 32 flat last lap around for Corey.
Oof.
Versus a 29.3. Oh, 23. Wow.
23. Jeez. That'd put Zach Baker right back in contention if he started putting in some 23s.
Formula 2 sort of stuff there around Sydney Motorsport Park. So that's, what, 2.5 seconds a lap, and the gap is 15 seconds. So that's 6 laps.
Yep, so could definitely see Zach Baker. You got to get a little bit of reflux there. As Zach Baker, very much possible to get that 5th place back, but unfortunately at this rate will not be able to carry that championship lead on unless, again, Luke Rosella slam the brakes on into turn 1, mate, and see what happens to Kurt Stenberg.
This is the closest battle on track at the moment. It is between Dane Liccardo and Brendan Ross. They are continuing their squabble over 7th and 8th. While we keep monitoring the gaps on the timing screen. This is some willing close car carnage.
So, Sleuthing Stairs has also just pointed out the possibility that Luke Rosella and Kurt Stenberg possibly didn't take tyres during the pit stop. Or specifically, Corey may not have taken tyres in an attempt to save some time, because his lap times are definitely not representative of some fresh tyres.
Just caught very quickly on our second screen a moment for Kurt Stenberg as he came through turn 2. Nice and gentle through turn 1. Then it looked like he locked a wheel on the entry. Oh, big slide. Ran it quite wide, and that dropped him a significant way off the back of Luke Rosella.
2.5 seconds, or even more than that actually. 2.6 seconds now, the gap between first and second Luke Rosella and Kurt Stenberg.
And it was half a second in that sector alone that Stenberg lost in that moment. And we've got a pit stop on our other screen. It's Brendan Ross that's just peeled off in the background. We'll just see if we can find him. That's a very late pit stop for Rossi.
It is. I can't remember when he pit last. If this is his second stop, I'm guessing it has to be. He hasn't done a 3 stop. So he's actually stopped twice already. He stopped last on lap 37. So not sure if he has just underfueled or what is the case here. He is just taking a regular stop. So possibly underfueled or did not put on some fresh tyres and is now feeling that pain. Regardless, has made a 3rd stop, which I imagine will not be the optimum strategy for this race.
You would think not at all. As we just watch the end of this pit stop. I'm going to do my favourite thing again, and we're going to find a nice camera spot, and we're going to watch the field go past and sort of show you where everyone is. I'm just trying to find one on our second screen, a nice one. Here we go. So there is Luke Rosella, our current race leader. There is Kurt Stenberg in second place, and Benjamin Dahlia in third. There's a little bit of a gap now to Colin Warwick, to the tune of about 7 seconds. There's Warwick. There's Brendan Ross, who's just emerged from the pit, so he's a lap down. Next car we're waiting for, there's Brody Steen, who's a lap down as well. Next car we are waiting on is Corey McFarlane, and that is Lewis Wedding, RSM Latino. And we should see very short order Zach Baker, there he is. So that gap now between Corey and Zach Baker is 9 seconds. So that's come down a significant amount in the last 2 laps. Then we do have quite a fair bit of time to wait for Dane Liccardo. In fact, we've got a long time to wait for Dane Liccardo.
So Zach Baker catching Corey at 3 seconds a lap at this rate. So he's going to get that position in very short order, I would expect. There is Dane Liccardo, finally emerges on the scene.
And we've got an equally sized gap to see the next driver on track, which will be Cameron Parrott, who's trying to do a one-stop strategy, we believe.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it plays out.
And there is Cameron Parrott just cresting over the hill, and it should be not too long before we see our race leader once again. In fact, there's Steve Warwick as well, just behind Cameron Parrott, and there is our race leader, and there is David Nenadich as well, who was lapped on that lap. So we didn't actually get to see a nice sweeping shot of David Nenadich. He misses out.
We saw a nice sweeping shot of Kurt Stenberg lapping him, which probably isn't the most inauspicious way or the most auspicious way for him to be remembered. But we do have some fantastic footage of him earlier on in the race, which he can go back and enjoy.
So Luke Rosella's 2 seconds the gap at the head of the field.
So that's come down a little bit. That was about 2.5 after Kurt Stenberg's issue. So Kurt Stenberg was about 0.2 faster on the previous lap. And it looks as if he might have closed that down a little bit more on this lap. We'll have to wait and see what the times are as they come across.
Something I do know about Luke Rosella after seeing a lot of him in ASR, however, is that he is very good at driving to a number. He likes leading races. He's a very capable leader of a race and will very comfortably just sit in a number and sit on a strategy and make it work. And I saw that quite a bit in the ASR Enduro Cup. I've seen that in GT3 action as well. He's quite comfortable in this situation. So it wouldn't surprise me if he's very much measuring the gap back to Kurt Stenberg.
Well, yeah, consistency can often trump out-and-out pace, especially in longer races like this where strategy is involved. So much better to be able to drive the exact same lap time consistently every lap than to be able to blow the rest of the field out of the water with 1 or 2 very, very hot laps.
But the thing about Luke Rosella is, Madbird, that he can do that as well. He can absolutely blow the cat out of the water with the cat out of the water?
Blow the cat out of the water. Blow the cat out of the bag.
Blow the cat out of the bag. What's the expression?
I don't know. Pull a rabbit out of a hat. The cat is out of the bag, or blow them out of the water. There we go.
An amalgamation of all of those previous metaphors. He can certainly do that over a single lap.
So it looks like Zach Baker is about a lap and a bit away from catching the back of Corey. He is currently 4 seconds behind, but at the pace that he's been putting in, he will catch him in probably on this lap. He was faster by 2.5 seconds on the previous lap. There is Corey, and there is Zach Baker. Jinx, you owe me a Coke.
Oh, I don't consent to this.
Hey, I don't care.
Wow, okay.
At least you're not... My partner always says, oh, we're under a roof, it doesn't count, which is never a rule that we played with Jinx. So
this is true.
So, at least you didn't try that. You just went the consent route, which I can appreciate.
Remember, no, I'm not going to finish that sentence. Corey, 32.2 lap around. We'll see Zach Baker's lap time in just a moment. It was a 30.5. So the pace is going away from from Zach Baker. A question for you, Madbird. Do you reckon Corey's fuel saving or tyre saving at
Both.
this stage of the raid? Both?
I imagine. I feel like he realised that he was going to have to, that he was going to be very, very marginal on fuel, and he'd have to save a lot. So maybe he didn't change tyres in an attempt to reduce the pain through the pit stop. And now he's found that he's got the worst of both worlds, where he's having to save time, save fuel, and save what's left of his ribbon tyres, is what I would posit. But I am merely an observer, Michael. What do you think?
I reckon it's predominantly fuel. Remember, we saw as Zach Baker gets a nice little licorice strap down on the exit of turn 6. As we just saw, well, we won't cut to it now, but Corey just had a wide moment through turn 7. We saw McFarlane pit on lap 19 and on lap 38. If you extrapolate that out, the next pit stop would be lap 57. And 57,
which we're rapidly approaching.
And 57, if you haven't noticed, does not equal 64.
Correct.
So I think McFarlane is trying to take the edge off and try and reduce his fuel usage as much as possible. But have a look here. You can just see right now, it's like you can play the Jaws theme in the background. It feels inevitable at this point. 32.2 versus a 29.7. So the gap is 2 seconds, 1.5 seconds. So we might see on the exit of the hairpin this lap, the move be made.
Very, very possibly. The gap is still not quite enough for Zach Baker to be able to sneak down the inside there, but it definitely closed up just through that braking zone alone.
8 tenths now. It was 7 tenths in that first, in just that corner. His tyres look shot. His fuel looks shot. In fact, I think I'm not going to finish that sentence either.
He looks shot.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, Corey Preston, I say that just because I don't think we've mistaken his name for
Corey
at least 10
McFarlane.
laps.
You just did then.
I did that on purpose.
Okay.
Zach Baker is now right on the back of Corey McFarlane. As Stairs would say, the gap is visual. I think the gap doesn't need to be visual. He could be a blind man and feel that the car is right there beside him as they go into the downhill hairpin. Zach Baker might have the tyres to hold onto it around the outside. Doesn't bother. Takes a wide line.
In fact, he lost quite a fair bit of time there.
Yeah.
A smart racer would have maybe tried to hang himself high and then take the undercut into 3 and 9 and 10.
Implying that Zach Baker's not a smart racer?
Well, he wasn't smart in that particular moment because he
Okay.
let himself lose half a second.
You're just being incredibly harsh, saying Colin Warwick doesn't matter, saying Zach Baker's stupid, saying Brendan
I didn't
lost.
say he was stupid.
Well, you said that he wasn't a smart racer.
There is a spectrum between smart and stupid. There is middle ground. It's like saying something is not insignificant.
I don't know. I think he's being a bit defensive about that one.
There's a difference between significant and not significant.
How much was that? Oh, I wasn't checked.
So we go through the hairpin, and Corey has well and truly lost that position to Zach Baker. As I throw my co-commentator under the bus, I can do it with everyone.
You can,
Stairs
you
or
can,
Michael.
and you do it very, very well.
Thank you.
Here is our race leader, Luke Rosella. He took a string of race victories in the middle part of the season at Darwin and Townsville, has returned for the last episode of the Sydney trifecta, the Sydney trilogy, and is looking like he will be in the box seat to take this one. It is going to be 8 laps left as he crosses the line now, and 8th of the race still to go. Can Stenberg make a challenge for the win?
I don't. It depends on how Luke Rosella's tyres and fuel are holding up. They will need to save a little bit based off of their stop times. That would put them a couple of laps before the end. So they're both going to have to save a little bit based on their previous stints, but definitely not nearly as much as Corey was going to have to. So I suppose it depends on how much fuel they both put in at their last stops. We saw Luke Rosella gained a ton of time through the pits, so he may have maybe short-fueled himself just a little bit to gain that advantage, and we'll have to save that as we reach the end as Cameron Parrott dives out of the way. I'm calling everyone Corey with different surnames, different combinations.
Corey Rosella, Corey Stenberg.
Corey everybody as we reach the end of this race.
Just to remind us, Stairs, when did Luke Rosella and Kurt Stenberg and Colin Warwick come in for their last pit stop? It was lap 43, so they don't have to fuel save too much. They've done at least one 21-lap stint in that essence, so that means that they could get to the end reasonably comfortably. within reason. A reasonable person could reason that they would reasonably get to the end within reason.
What the hell is happening? Luke Rosella, what is happening is Luke Rosella's managed to expand his gap out just a little bit to 2.7 seconds. So a pretty good lap there from Luke Rosella and not a very good one from Kurt. So the lapped traffic favoured Luke Rosella on that particular lap.
We're just going to catch a replay here of a bit of a moment in traffic for Benjamin Dahlia. Steve Warwick just checked up on the concrete apron, and Dahlia was expecting that car to continue around the corner, but didn't quite get the exit path that he was hoping for. That's the second time that's happened to Dahlia on the exit of the final corner.
Getting very bad service from the lap runners, which is unfortunate for him. Not quite as bad as that previous one, which, as you said, exactly at the moment where you would want to be putting your foot down, there was a car in front of him, which was not ideal. What is ideal is Luke Rosella has managed to expand his advantage through this sequence of lapped runners, managing to get through pretty much painlessly, whereas Kurt Stenberg's lost a little bit of time. Kurt there, you can see lurking in the background. Only got 6 laps left in this race. That's gone bloody quick, hasn't it?
Absolutely. It has been almost an hour and a half, Madbird, that we've been sitting here talking to each other about this race.
Yeah. Well, you talked to Stairs for a brief period while I went to relieve my bladder.
This is true, indeed.
But mostly talking to each other.
And our very, very willing and consensual audience. Just last lap around 29.5. 29.5 for Rosella, 30.4 for Kurt Stenberg. Oh, you can tell if this is a precursor for Bathurst, this is a tech rehearsal, a sort of brain rehearsal for Bathurst. You can expect in a few weeks' time when we do get to that Bathurst 1000 in the latter stages of that race, Madbird and Stairs as well, that we are going to be having a great old time.
I think Kurt Stenberg and Colin Warwick haven't told me about all these people they've been tying up and forcing to watch against their consent in the previous rounds.
How else do you think the viewership gets so high?
Very, very true. Definitely not the fantastic production that we put on here. And I must say, before we reach the end, and I don't have time to say it, you've done incredibly well tonight, Michael, manning the ship as it was and controlling. As Stairs applauds softly in the background, you've done a very good job manning that.
He says as he interrupts us. No, thank you very much, Madbird. It is an impeccable setup that Stairs has got here, and he's done a very good job of making it easy. And as I said at the very beginning of the show, it feels like a kid in a candy store. There's buttons that light up, there's switches, there's zoom keys. It's great fun. So I'm very much enjoying getting to just basically have not put any work into setting it all up and just come in and play with it. So
you get to just reap the benefits of his many hours of labor and sweat and tears.
And trial and error, indeed. Plenty of that in the broadcast booth tonight. Because we are, after all, the best of amateurs. Not like these. Well, actually, these guys are the best. They do have sponsors, don't they?
Yeah, well, I mean, the series has sponsors. I'm not sure if the drivers get any money from their on-car sponsorships. The sponsorship that we're looking at the most is this JK Signs one on Luke Rosella's car. So he'd be earning a pretty penny if he was getting paid for that. Now 3 seconds to the better of Kurt Stenberg. So that challenge from Kurt Stenberg seems to be falling away. As Luke Rosella just continues putting in these, as you said, driving to a number, putting in very solid laps, lap after lap.
And we're just going to switch now to the race for third. Benjamin Dahlia versus Colin Warwick. These guys have dropped a little bit of pace, but Dahlia more significantly than Colin Warwick. There could be intrigue at the tail end of the podium here. Last lap around at 30.7 for Benjamin Dahlia. Colin Warwick, on the other hand, a 30.1. The gap is 3 seconds, so it would have to come down by a little bit more per lap. But as you can see, there is traffic in the midst of this as well for Benjamin Dahlia. And 2.5 seconds, it's not run and done just yet. Oh, as I say, that traffic gets out of the way. It was very, very nicely done by whoever that was, Cameron Parrott.
Corey Parrott.
But still, it's not quite done and dusted for the miners just yet. And if Dahlia is beginning to struggle with his tyre life, as he was the first to pit out of this group. He pit, if I recall correctly, on lap 41. So he has 2 laps extra that he's done on this tyre load. 42 rather. So he's got an additional lap compared to the likes of Colin Warwick. And that may pay dividends at the tail end of the race. We'll get a read on the lap time here. 31 flat versus a 30.4. So there's still a bit of intrigue at the tail end of the top 10, top 3 rather.
0.6 of a second there for Colin Warwick.
And here
as you
is
can
Colin.
see. Yeah, so that really isn't that camera angle didn't change too much. You can see Benjamin Dahlia just ahead there, separated by that lap runner Cameron Parrott. So really not too much space between these two with 3 laps left to run. If this continues, he's going to be right on the back of him going into that last corner.
And just in the background of shot there as well, did we see a battle for position between? No, it was just a lap runner. I got very excited, just for a moment.
Zach Baker's having a quite lonely race with about 20 seconds ahead of him and 10 seconds behind him to the next car for position. That car there is not for position. Even if it was, that's a decent distance. I'd get lonely in that particular space. So
It's okay, man. We're here for you.
I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, a bit of a sore and sorry night for Zach Baker after a good chance levied to him in qualifying with the problems for Kurt Stenberg in the shootout. A problem on lap 1. I think a tangled moment with Brody Steen has seen him drop away, and with it, his championship hopes evaporate. And let's actually pay some attention to this man, Kurt Stenberg, who is 3 laps away from taking home the 3rd edition of the ASC Championship. Has been the 4-man all season with, let's count them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 wins so far this season. I absolutely did not expect that. He broke me for a second.
I do apologize. And let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 positions gained in this race, starting as he did in 11th place, which you would think is unsurmountable, but Luke Rosella having gained, I think, 15 positions from his particular start.
Ooh,
14. Oh, look at that.
He started in
pretty
15th.
close. Yes, of course. So
wow.
So very, very well.
Stans, fix that up in post for us, please.
Yeah, thank you. Luke Rosella, an absolutely flawless race, it must be said. I'd never expected him to be in the lead at the end, considering the first stanza of this race was him down in 3rd or 4th, looking like he didn't have the measure of the cars ahead of him. A very, very quick pit stop for the final stint has seen him come out with a commanding lead in this race, and something awful would have to happen. I'm knocking on wood for him in order for him to not lose this race, I would expect. In order for him to lose this race, I would even say.
Are you actually trying to jinx him? You had like 3 or 4 goes there, and you got it wrong every single time.
Look, I'm not trying to, but I have this power that it happens regardless. So, no.
Was it you and me on commentary, Madbird, when we were just giving David Nenadich a big ups in the Bathurst 1000, and we cut to him
plowing into a wall,
and plowing to the wall, and then fading through it and disconnecting?
I reckon that might have been us. Yeah, that sounds like something that we would have talked about. And then just gone, that's unfortunate. In this particular race, also a bit unfortunate for David Nadich, down in 10th place after starting off up in, I want to say 7th or 8th he started in. So that's unfortunate for him. Speaking of unfortunate things, that was another person that starts with a D. There you go.
So 7th.
Started in 7th. See, I did say 7th. I know sort of what I'm talking about.
You can convince me, just.
Luke Rosella is coming up to the second to last time that he is going to run through this sequence of corners. Lap 63. Although his thing is saying 62, so I'm not sure which one we're running off of.
He's completed 62 laps.
Excellent. So he's on lap 63 at the moment. Coming through to begin the final lap of this race. Further down, it doesn't look like that change is going to happen. Colin Warwick now 3 seconds behind Benjamin Dahlia, so it looks as if the podium is settled.
Indeed, Colin Warwick just losing a bit of time through traffic there, but it has been the Luke Rosella show this evening after Corey McFarlane drove away at the head of the field to start with. A bit of problems in the pits, a difficult strategy, running out of fuel, having to save quite a bit, saw him drop away. Rosella bided his time and sat in the wheel tracks of first Kurt Stenberg, then Benjamin Dahlia, then Colin Warwick, and when the moment was right, he came out on top and has pulled away 4 seconds the gap now, and it's been a masterful display from Luke Rosella. A well thought out race.
Yeah, very, very well done. I think Kurt Stenberg has sort of put the cue in the rack at this stage. Now 4.7 seconds the gap, so he's just bringing it home. Benjamin Dahlia with a worthy third place at this stage, considering that he hasn't. Has he won a race with us before? No, he hasn't. He has had 2 podiums, so this will be his 3rd podium with us. He did win a race, actually. Shut my mouth and call
He did
me.
not.
He did not. That is
orange.
a 2nd place.
That
Oh
is
my
a
goodness.
2nd place.
No, I was looking at the first Sydney round. I believe he had a 2nd place. But regardless, I've prattled on through Luke Rosella's final sector. He's going to come across the line, lights ablaze, to win the 3rd stanza of the Sydney trifecta.
And of course, coming across the line in 2nd, that does confirm Kurt Stenberg as the ASC champion for 2021 as well. A fitting result for the pair of them to take the bickies at the end of this race. And you just see Luke Rosella celebrating in style on the exit of turn 2.
Benjamin Dahlia did come home in 3rd place with Colin Warwick in 4th. Zach Baker will bring home 5th place, which is probably a bit disappointing from him, starting from 4th. And having the opportunity to carry the championship on did not eventuate. And Corey McFarlane, after... He's going to get...
Is he already run out of fuel? Was that the extent of the burnout?
Very possibly Luke Rosella has run out of fuel. Lights are flashing like hazards. And Colin Warwick is going to escort him back to the pits.
He ran that so close to the end of the tank then. If he ran out of fuel on the last... doing the burnouts at turn 2.
So that's how he saved the time in the last pit stop. He gave himself absolutely no margin. He gave himself 2 burnouts worth of margin at the hairpin. And he is now the beneficiary of a nice bump home by Colin Warwick.
Wow. See, told you, he's absolutely masterful at driving to a number, and he got that number absolutely perfect. That would have coughed coming out of the hairpin, I reckon. And he still managed to get around the final few corners.
I reckon. So Luke Rosella did bring home the fastest lap of the race as well with a 1:28.1. I can't see any beating that in the timings. So very well done to him. And yeah, Corey, after looking like he was in command of the race for the longest time, coming home in 6th place, he'll be disappointed. But
another person getting a push as well is Kurt Stenberg.
So there you go. That's how they saved the time in the pit stops. They gave themselves no margin whatsoever.
And it is a little ironic and also a little hurtful for Benjamin Dahlia that the 2 drivers who finished ahead of him ran out of fuel in the last lap, and now he is the one pushing Stenberg home.
So yeah, so Benjamin Dahlia, with that extra fuel he took on that maybe cost him the lead of the race, was able to push his push the people that pushed him out of the top 2 stops on the podium. Wow, my pronunciation has just gone out the window.
It is that time of night because it's just ticked over 10 p.m. as everyone fiddles their way into the pit lane. That can be the only way to describe it because it was not a graceful entry for anyone. But that was the last race in Sydney Motorsport Park for this season, the penultimate race of the season, and a very well won race by Luke Rosella. Madbird, it's great to watch racing. Great that we've been able to do this again in person, and it was a thrilling race to watch as well. That battle pack of 5, the first stint as well, just absolutely kept us on the edge of our seat. Even though nothing was happening, it was just all happening.
It was happening, but not happening, which is exciting all by itself. And yeah, the strategy calls, we're like, oh, Corey's got this. Oh wait, no, Corey's gonna have to save fuel. And then Luke Rosella and Kurt Stenberg somehow managing to just leave themselves a paper, like a little. That you hear that, viewers? That's how much fuel they had left when they crossed the line. It appears
a wisp, the smell of an oily rag.
Smell of an oily rag. Which, incidentally, is, well, no, I don't have anywhere to go with that. I believe that we actually have a few of our podium sitters in the in the box with us. Michael, I think you have first place man and race winner Luke Rosella. First place man and race winner are synonyms, aren't they?
Indeed. Luke Rosella, congratulations on taking home the 250k Sydney 3 race.
How good was that? That was amazing. I think that's one of the best drives, one of the best drives I've done probably in my sim racing career. That was unbelievable. Had a shocker qualifying. We didn't even set a lap, so I missed the top 10 shootout, so we're on the back foot already. I'm even surprised the start I had. We had an amazing start, and I think by lap 5 I was already with the lead pack. So got off to a really good start.
And you carried that through to the very end of the race as well. How about that coming across the line? You did, what, 1 burnout, 2 burnouts before you ran out of fuel? How much fuel did you have when you crossed the line?
I think I had about maybe 1.5 litres. So
generous.
Spared a few drops. But that was I mean, you had to be so disciplined. In your driving throughout the whole race. We knew we had to save quite a bit. First I think 2 or 3 stints. We had to basically fuel save, drive to a number. I was quite lucky. I had Dahlia and Cole in front of me for most of that, so it made it quite easy. Basically a free kick on the straights, saving a bit of fuel, and lifting and coasting. The final stint was probably the most crucial. It looked like I had a much better stop than Kurt. I made maybe a couple seconds on him in the pit stop. I don't know what happened there, but we had to save maybe about 3 or 4 laps, and then from there push. I was using the gap to Kurt on the leaderboard just to gauge when I could fuel save and when I couldn't. It was pretty pressure. I'm absolutely done. That was an amazing race. I had so much fun. That was great.
Yeah, it looked like you guys were having fun. Just talking through the discipline in stints 1 and 2, you guys were in this embroiled in battle, these big packs, but everyone was kind of cagey and not really making any moves. How hard is it to keep your concentration and to not make mistakes in a situation like that?
Well, you got to be on it. You got to be on it, but you can't at the same time. Like I said before, you made it a bit easier because Cole, Corey, and Benjamin were battling quite a bit. So made it quite easy to fuel save a bit of juice. I got a bit worried though because Dahlia actually had a bit of a gap on me in that the second stint. Yep. So I couldn't get that free sort of fuel save on the straights, the slipstream. But he looked like he used a bit of his tyres, and I caught up to him. And just the same as the first stint, fuel save, and as I said, the last stint was crucial, and we got it done. So I had a well of a time. It was great.
Congratulations, Luke, and that's a very good win on the way to Bathurst as well. It must feel very nice to have in your back pocket.
Yeah, it sure does bring some great momentum into Bathurst. I can't wait to pair up with Thomas. Making his only appearance this year. It's gonna be great. I can't. The ring-in, I can't wait. It's gonna be good.
Brilliant. Congratulations on a well-won race tonight, Luke Rosella.
Thanks, mate.
And Mad Bird, I'll hand you over to our second place getter and new ASC champion, Kurt Stenberg.
Absolutely. Hello, Kurt. Congratulations on second place, but moreover, congratulations on taking out your second of the 3 ASC runnings of the championship so far. Congratulations.
Thanks, I didn't even know that was official. There you go, I had absolutely no idea. I was not thinking about that at any point during the race, just trying to win
I'm
the
happy
race.
to announce to you that it is official, that you are the championship winner.
I like how I'm the admin that keeps the points and I don't even know, because I kind of didn't want to know, if that makes any sense.
Oh, I'm sorry for spoiling it for you.
No, it's fine to know now, but I kind of didn't want to know at the time. You don't want to be racing to get to where you need to finish, you want to be racing for wins, so...
At one point I suggested that you might have been taking it easy because you knew where you needed to finish, and obviously that was not the case.
No, I had absolutely no idea. My whole thing in that first stint is I didn't know whether this was going to be a 3-stopper or a 2-stopper. So, in the first stint, I saw what it was going on, and I thought I'm just going to sit here behind everyone, fuel save a bunch, we'll see what happens. We'll go as long as possible and we'll play our game from there. And I kind of did that in every stint. I kind of just saw Corey pit and I thought that's interesting. I saw Zach Baker go a lap longer and I thought that's interesting. And then I stayed with everyone in that middle stint, just doing the same thing, trying to look after fuel and tyres. And then that last stint, I'm shocked. I'm surprised. I've got to hand it to Luke Rosella. I came out of the pits. I was going to go with him and try and catch him. I then realised I can't continue to go with this guy if I'm going to make it home on fuel. So I backed out of it to save fuel, and that was all she wrote. But I wasn't going to catch him anyway. Like, his pace was incredible. I'm actually shocked. I'm stunned. I have no words.
Well, I guess that's a major compliment to
drive.
Luke Rosella then, I suppose.
That's one of the most incredible drives I've ever seen from someone from the middle two stints of the race, like the first and middle stint of the race, his pace, to the last stint. He just put it in another gear and just took off up the road and somehow kept the tyres and the fuel in it and won the race.
Looked like you both took the minimum amount of fuel, because I think you also ran out on your cool down lap after the finish of the race. So how much fuel did you have left as you crossed the line?
I had 1.2 litres, so I actually could have put less in. I could have. What I could have done is I could have not saved less in the last stint. I didn't realise what the go was, so I just got very worried with the fuel numbers I was seeing pop up on the dash when I knew what I had to hit. But as the tyres go off, it gets better. But yeah, once I tried to push with old tyres, I was never going to catch Luke. I had a bit of a go there, you probably saw, and I got the gap to 1.8, and then I just made a mistake. And at that point, it was back out of it, try and get points, because we were never going to catch him. But what a race! That was a lot of fun. I like those races like that.
Absolutely, very very different to the previous running with the 3 equal distance sprints. So a very different racing required. All strategy and consistency, like Luke Rosella was saying. But yeah, once again, congratulations on your second place, Kurt, and congratulations very much on your second championship. Do you think you'll have the number 1 next year?
That's a good question, because everywhere I've won it, I've run it over in ASR this year, and it's been terrible luck to me too. So I don't know, but I kind of feel like you have to. I know that people don't these days in motorsport, but I kind of feel like you kind of have to put the number 1 on the door and celebrate that you're the champion, even if it is a bit unlucky. So, but we'll see. So I'm too mentally smashed to think about anything like that at the minute.
Fair enough. Well, congratulations again, Kurt.
No worries. Thanks, guys. See you at Bathurst.
Yeah, see you then, matey. And Michael, last but definitely not least, I think you have our third place man, Benjamin Dahlia.
Yes, Benjamin Dahlia, a return to the rostrum for you. You looked like you were in a good stead in that middle stint of the race, just not quite after the pit stop, but it looked like a lot of fun from where we were sitting. How was the race from your perspective?
It was definitely a lot of fun being up there in that battle. Honestly, sort of caught me by surprise to have the pace that I did tonight. I didn't quite have it a couple of weeks ago at the last race, but yeah, it was certainly nice to have it this time. And in that second stint, I just wasn't quite able to conserve as much fuel as I was hoping. I was about 2 litres short of being able to do that last lap that Luke and Kurt did, and that just sort of meant I had to conserve in that last stint, so I wasn't able to challenge for those top 2 spots. But yeah, it just sort of became about trying to keep third place, which I was just able to do there ahead of Cole. So.
And you did that very nicely. Talk us through the moments you had in traffic. We noticed once or twice, particularly around the last corner, that you just got caught out right at the wrong moment. Is driving through traffic something that is that you find difficult, or something that you're still trying to get to grips with in these longer races?
Really, when it comes to lap traffic, you can just sort of get caught out with where you catch them. Sometimes you'll catch them on a straight and it's pretty easy going, or you'll catch them in a twisty section and you lose a bit of time. It just sort of comes down to luck on where you catch the lap traffic, but I don't think any of the lap cars that I caught this time did too bad of a job, so yeah, that was all right this time around.
Fair enough. Now, Bathurst, next time out, you've put in some great races at Sydney. You've got a lot of momentum behind you. what does it feel like heading into the biggest race of the season, knowing that you've got the pace of your contemporaries, the likes of Kurt Stenberg, Luke Rosella, Colin Warwick, Corey McFarlane, these guys who have been the front runners all season? Do you feel like you're a part of that group? Do you feel like you might be able to challenge for the top step at Bathurst?
It's certainly a weird feeling now, just the last few rounds actually being up there in that front fight. It still feels very new and very fresh, but certainly the last few rounds I think I've sort of been able to prove that I can do it. And especially last year when I went into the 1000, I'd just come out of Super 2 and hadn't done many main series races. So this time around I feel like I'm a bit more confident, and hopefully I can just get past lap 20, because I think last time that's when my computer crashed and I ended up out of the race. So that's the main goal this time around, really.
Fingers crossed for you. Well, congratulations on another podium tonight, Benjamin Dahlia, and we'll see you in a month's time for the big one.
See you there. Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much from our podium getters. Madbird, few closing thoughts on this trifecta of Sydney events?
Well, we've both commentated 2 of them, so it was excellent seeing a couple of different layouts of the track and also different formats, seeing 3 short sprints around Druitt, the Druitt format, and then this sort of semi-enduro around the full layout was very enjoyable, and some fantastic racing as we saw in that first stint. That battle pack, even if they were, saving fuel, they were still, if there was an opportunity, they were taking it, and there was a lot of close racing there between those 5 cars. It was just some incredible racing from start to finish. What about yourself?
I was most surprised in that first stint that we only saw one mistake that entire stint. It was only a small moment of running wide at turn 2 that started to kick things off. I commentated the 2 GP circuit events, so I didn't get the privilege of doing 2 separate circuits, but what I did get the privilege of was calling some great racing. And if we see anything close to this caliber of racing in a month's time at the Bathurst 1000, I'm sure we will have almost as a thrilling a finish as we did last year. Well, that's it from us tonight here at ASC, the last of our Sydney events. Of course, the big one will be on the 17th and 18th of December. Please join us then. I've been Michael Zalavari on behalf of Madbird and Stairs. We'll see you next time.